post office, but we'll see.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know.
Cool, thanks.
Hey everyone, hello. It is 7, oh, I just lost the window. There we are.
7 o'clock.
It's 7 p.m. Welcome everyone. This is the Queens Community Board 6 November meeting. Thank you for joining us. Just a little orientation. Tonight, if you've signed up to watch on WebEx, you are here as a participant. And you can listen to the meeting. If you see yourself on screen, you know the drill. You're a community board member, good to see you, or you're someone that's coming to present to the board. And if you've signed up by 3 p.m. today to give a public comment, we'll be going through the list and promoting you at the appropriate time during the meeting. We have a very big meeting tonight, so keep that in mind. We are also live streaming this on YouTube. I thought that we were going to have finally closed captions on this WebEx platform. It's not yet working, and I apologize for those of you that use that as an accessibility option. But if on YouTube, the rerun has, like, not the rerun, but after it's live, after 24 hours, I believe that there are closed captionings on there. So that said, my name is Alexa Weitzman. I'm chair of Queens Community Board 6. Like I said, we have a big meeting like we do all of our general meetings. We start with public comments. We have a number of people who have submitted public comments or signed up to give public comments about a land use item that's later on our agenda. We'll have a separate portion of the agenda dedicated to those folks. But first, we have just our general public comment. So first, we have, I have so many lists today. So we have Sid Baraha from Department of Sanitation about leaf bags and leaf collection. Have we been able to find Sid? Let's see. Permeet, are you with me, or is someone able to look through the list?
Yeah, I just promoted Sid. Sid, you should be able to speak now.
Great. Thanks. Go ahead, Sid. You have the floor for. You have up to 5 minutes. If you you don't have to use the 5 minutes. We would appreciate condensing your comments, and you can send everything to the board that we will send out. But please tell us what you have to say. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm here to talk to you about DSNY's leaf collection program. The Department of Sanitation conducts seasonal collections for leaves, turns them into compost. So instead of letting your leaves rot in landfills and create harmful greenhouse gases, you can help DSNY make compost instead. So you can set out your leaves at the curb in paper, lawn, and leaf bags, or in online bins after 4 p.m. on Saturday, December 11th. I'll put this date in the chat as a reminder. Yes, you can place your leaves in paper, lawn, and leaf bags or in open online containers for collection. And DSNR will collect these and turn them into compost. So what you do is collect these in paper, lawn, and leaf bags or in online rigid containers. You set them out for collection after 4 p.m. on Saturday, December 11th. And just heads up that leaves, grass, branches, and yard clippings that are generated by hired professionals cannot be collected for curbside collection. So professionals must dispose of those materials at a permitted compost facility. So only for household leaf and yard waste. And be mindful not to use plastic bags. DSNY won't collect those. So paper, lawn, and leaf bags is what you use to collect leaves. Set them at the curb on Saturday, December 11th after 4 p.m. That is all that I wanted to announce. I will put my email address in the chat if anyone wants to reach out with further questions or wants further clarity. Happy to follow up.
Thanks, Sid. If you have a flyer or something that we could send around to our members that they could then send around either to their neighbors or we can post on our social channels, that would be great too. You can send it to our board office.
Yes, we'll certainly do. So I believe I certainly will follow up with that.
Okay, great. Maybe we have it already, and that's great. We also, I don't believe we have our chat available right now, so we'll just send around the information we have, or you can send us more to our office.
Sure, I'll send it to you via email.
Great.
Thank you so
being
much for
here.
having me. Thank you.
Next up, we have Odette Wilkins here. Odette was here in our September meeting and shared with us some information. I think she has some new information that she wants to share today. Have we found Odette on the
I don't see
list?
Odette here.
Okay, so we'll go back to her after. Is George here?
I don't see George either.
Okay.
Unless
well,
Odette and George are one of these call-in users, but I wouldn't know otherwise.
Odette was not last time, and I don't imagine that George would be. Oh, Odette, I see Odette here. Maybe she just joined. Let me promote her. Odette, I just promoted you. Please keep your comments brief. If there's anything new that you could share with us, we're interested to hear it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I can't see anybody. I'm not sure what is going on with this. I hope you can see me.
Yep, we can see you and hear you.
Okay, that's kind of odd because I can't see anybody right now. Well, thank you so much for having me speak. My name is Odette Wilkins, and I'm president and general counsel of Wired Broadband. We work out of Forest Hills, and our primary purpose is to promote the use of fiber and other wired solutions over wireless as the faster, safer, and more secure solution. I have been told that the community board has nothing to do with 5G towers or the 5G canisters that are being placed in the public rights of way, which is what I was speaking about the last time. It's actually not correct, whether you know it or not. At the Public Design Commission hearing last year in August, a representative of the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications stated that they had spoken to the community boards and that DoIT, I'll call them DoIT for short, received support, or I believe he said, if I remember correctly, overwhelming support from the community boards regarding the installation of the 5G canisters on the public rights of way. But when I spoke to Frank of this community board last year and asked him about it, Frank said that he had not heard anything about the 5G deployments in Community Board 6. DoIT has been invoking the purported support of the community boards for 5G deployment in New York City neighborhoods. Apparently, DoIT's statement to the Public Design Commission was not correct. Now, we have a new 5G threat since I last presented at September's community board meeting, giant 5G towers that DoIT presented yet again to the Public Design Commission. The report was dated October 18th of this year when the hearing was held by the commission regarding the aesthetics of these giant 5G towers. They will be about 32 feet tall, with the antennas being a minimum of almost 20 feet. 32 feet tall is the equivalent height of 3 stories of a building. 20 feet is the equivalent height of 2 stories of a building. There will only be a 10.5-foot setback from the building, meaning they will be beaming straight into people's homes and businesses. Now, there are thousands of scientific peer-reviewed studies concluding biological harms, and indeed, people in New York City have been seriously injured, and some have had to seek refuge outside of New York. These giant 5G towers will probably make it worse. So these will be fitted into existing kiosks, and there will be freestanding monopoles in the middle of residential streets, sticking out 3 stories high like a sore thumb. I will be providing a copy of DoIT's presentation to the commission after this meeting. They are planned to be placed on sidewalks in the poorer neighborhoods. DoIT is planning to install 4,000 of these giant antennas on top of existing kiosks and on large monopoles. And they stated in their report that in some instances they are consulting with community boards. I want to make sure that Community Board 6 does not miss an opportunity to voice its objections to DoIT. It is just a matter of time before DoIT decides to extend these giant 5G towers to other parts of New York City. DoIT is invoking digital equity under the marketing guise of bridging the digital divide, when what DoIT is actually doing is first choosing the poor neighborhoods as the guinea pigs. If we don't raise our objections now to DoIT, when DoIT decides to place thousands more in other neighborhoods, including our neighborhoods, it will be too late. I urge you as representatives of Community Board 6 to voice your objections now and write to do it to the mayor, to our city council representative, Karen Koslowitz or Lynn Schulman, or to our and to our community board president, I meant to say and throughout all this, Donovan Richards. Because when those giant 5G towers come to Forest Hills, Regal Park, Kew Gardens, it will be too late. I urge you to try to form a letter of objection now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Odette. Ooh, I'm hearing. Can everyone mute themselves? Sorry. Oh, but Odette, why don't you send it to us? Hold on. Maybe that's the live feed. Okay, that's better. Sorry, everyone. Odette, send everything to us and we will send it out to our members. So thank you for coming back and telling us about this. Okay, up next we have George. Have we found George?
No, not yet.
No? Okay. Well, we'll circle back maybe later. And just for all of you here on the call waiting to make a public comment about the land use item on our agenda, we're going to do that during that section of the meeting. Just so you know, I'm not glossing over you. We want to hear from you, but we're just going to do it a little later. Oops. Sorry, I'm doing.
George is trying to get in, Alexa. I just talked to him. I sent him the link again, so let's see what happens.
Okay, I don't think the link, your link will work. He has to register on his own.
He did, but for some reason it's asking him for a registration ID and nobody knows what that is.
Okay, so, okay, yeah, this is something that happens. And if he can work on it at some point, we can try to fit him in at a later point in the agenda. So he just has to click the join, not the register. Okay. And also, George can always, send what he needs to send to us and we will definitely put it out there. So thanks for being in touch with him, Elizabeth. So up next, so those were our public forum comments that were not related to the land use item on our agenda. So up next is our minutes. So everyone received the minutes and had a chance to go through them. I have one change to make because of a conflict of interest. David Schneier's votes on the following items will be updated to abstain on the 2023 budget list, on the expense budget list, priority list. Meals on Wheels, provide and expand beacon programs, senior center funding, and local food pantries. So those will be changed. And with that change, can you please unmute yourselves now and can I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I approve it.
I have a question,
And we're looking for a motion.
but I have a question for a change in the bylaws. It's Jane Silva.
A change in the bylaws?
No, I'm sorry, the change in the minutes, there's a,
Okay.
yeah, all right?
Yep.
On page 10, at our last meeting, I had made a statement, report. And I sent an email on October 15th to you and Frank about, I requested that my full report be put into the minutes. And it's not there.
Yeah, we put it in the good and welfare section. It was not a committee report since you didn't have a committee meeting, but your committee report today will be in as a committee report.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great, Howie. So everyone unmute yourselves. All in favor of approving the minutes with that one change, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, does anyone not want to approve them with that change? That's the one like mouthful I always have. Anyone say no? Great, minutes are approved. Okay, so just, we'll do attendance in a little bit, I guess, before. Maybe I'll do attendance just quickly now. We're running a little short staff. Christine's not with us. So I did go through to see who was here, but there are certain people I didn't see. Miriam, are you here? Heidi, are you here? Sheridan? Alex Cohen?
Alex
Latrice?
is
Yes.
here.
Alex is here. Latrice was running late, I think. Ralph? Emmanuel? Jack? Steve? Pat was running late. Raphael? Gladys? And then this is where I stopped. So David, I saw. Herb, I saw. Jean, I saw. Teresa, I saw. Robert, I don't believe. Is he here, Robert? Okay. Irina? Martha, I think I saw.
Yes.
Martha,
I'm
are you
here. Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Susan, I saw. I am here. Joan?
I'm here.
Edwin? Oh, Joan is here. Great. Hi, Joan. Edwin?
I'm here. It's Edwin.
Okay, great. And Daniel? Yukubov? Okay, great. Okay. So hi, everyone.
Alexa, I'm sorry. I'm
Yes?
sorry to interrupt you. The Queens Chamber of Commerce just called in. So I'm just wondering if you can see his number and allow him in.
Sure. What is his, give me the first,
It's 516.
let's see. I don't see a 516 number on here.
Hold on a second. Hold on. It's I'm sorry, 516-900-6280.
I don't see a 516 number.
I'm
let's see.
sorry, let me try again. 917-815-8970.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, George, you've been promoted. Sorry about that tech issue. You should be able to speak now. Go ahead. George, you might have to unmute yourself. I think it's *6.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you very much for your patience. Once again, my name is George Hadji Constantino. I'm a business recovery specialist with Queens Chamber of Commerce. I have addressed all of you before about, I want to say 7 or 8 months ago, about our program to provide free resources to small businesses to help them deal with the pandemic. I want to quickly brief you about our website program that we are doing to build free websites for small businesses if they already do not have a website or if they have a website that is not serving them well at all. We also provide free SEO support, and we also are trying to help small businesses apply for different grant programs, including the Empire State Development Grant Program. I'd be happy to chat with anybody offline. I'm going to try my best I think I may have figured out how to log into the WebEx, and I'll just leave my contact information in the chat. And Elizabeth and Alexa also have my contact information. So if you need to, you can speak to them to reach to me, but my email is ghadji@queenschamber.org. I'll also give my cell phone, area code 516-900-6280. And I'd be happy to chat with anybody, any business owner or anybody in general. I'm here to help. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
George, what about not-for-profit businesses? Do you support them?
We try to help not-for-profits as well. I think I might have, a lot of our programs are geared specifically toward businesses. If you have a specific issue, I can try to help you with that, and I'd be happy to chat with you offline about that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, George. We don't have our chat, so no need to struggle with getting back on. We don't have our chat active right now, but we will send around with our post-meeting email your contact information. So thank you.
Okay, I really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks for coming on, George.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
You too. So I think I have to, okay, great. So while I was taking attendance, I'm just gonna let all the board members know, we do submit periodic attendance to the Borough President's Office. and they take that very seriously, and we take it really seriously. So just keep that in mind. I think you shouldn't be absent more than 3 times in, I think, 6 months. I should know this. There are some of you who are, you know, absent many more than that. So just keep that in mind. We love to see you, and we just want to make sure that you're really committed to being here. So thank you. That said, I'm Alexa Weitzman. This is Queens Community Board 6 November meeting. I use she, her pronouns. Alexa Weitzman, chair of the board. If you're here, I'm just going to do it quick because it's 7:20, 20 minutes into the meeting. If you're on the screen, you know the drill. You're a board member. If you're here as an attendee, if you've signed up in advance to speak, you'll have an opportunity at that time. If not, you can just listen to the meeting. If you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, that's great. We have a YouTube. I'm glad someone's watching there. So I want to wish everyone a happy Diwali. And I want to acknowledge that we actually had a meeting scheduled for that evening. And I'm really sorry about that. I take responsibility. It won't happen again. But if you celebrate, happy Diwali. I also want to let everyone know, if you didn't yet know, that vaccines have been approved for ages 5 to 11. This is really exciting for people like me who have a child that falls into that category. And just so you know, I took my child to Citi Field earlier this week. It was a really smooth process. They have a whole pediatric area set up there, and it was really fun for him. We're big Mets fans. This was like the most exciting thing that happened all season at Shea Stadium, or Shea Stadium. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. Citi Field. But definitely, if you need a place to go for your child's vaccine, I would recommend that. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that PS 303 and PS 196 landed on the US News and World Report Best Elementary Schools in New York State at number 4 and number 7, respectively. So congratulations to them. And I also wanted to acknowledge that Captain Kappelman of the 112th was promoted to Deputy Inspector of the 112th. So congratulations. And just to give you coming attractions, since we approved our bylaws, we made a few changes. One of them was a shift in when we do elections. We had been doing them always in September. We've moved it to the end of the year and the beginning of the year. We've separated nominations and elections. So in our December meeting, we'll be having our nominations portion of the elections. And in January, we'll be having the actual elections based on those nominations. And I wanted to tell you all that after a lot of thought, I've decided not to run again for chair for the next term. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have been chair for the past over 2 years. It's been the hardest 2 years of my life. I think it's been the hardest 2 years of our district's life and our city's life. And I'm really proud of the work that we all did together. We've accomplished so much over this time. We've really coalesced as a board, and I'm really proud of what we've done. We've become a lot more active, even being remote. We've adopted new procedures and protocols. We've changed and adopted new bylaws, which have really increased just the way that our board can run really smoothly. And like I said, we transitioned from in-person to remote, and we've continued to really thrive and flourish. And I gave it my all. And I just want to thank all of you for giving it your all as well. So I know this will be maybe a shock, but I hope you understand. Like I said, I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to be chair of this board for 2 years, and I'm grateful for all the support that's come my way throughout these 2 years, and also like tonight. I threw myself into the chair role, but it wasn't a solo mission. I'm so grateful for the people on the executive committee that I worked really close with, for all the board chairs, and of course Frank and Christine and Barbara and Maria. And I really truly believe that not only a chair, but an executive committee and a board is really at its strongest when there's true open collaboration. And I don't believe that being a chair should be a vacuum of power, or just a place where power is held for a long time. So I think that it's it could be a strength to find a new voice on this board. I know that there is some people on this board who have strong voices and can do great things, and I look forward to, you know, seeing what we can accomplish together. So yeah, I in terms of just the nitty gritty of how we'll be running the elections, we will still be doing it remotely, and we will still be doing it probably similarly, but we haven't ironed out the details yet. So look for some more information. Our next meeting in December is, I think, the 8th.
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll get more information before then. But like I said, I just thank you all for the opportunity to be chair of this board for 26 months. And I really look forward to what's next and what we could do together. And I will still be a member of the board. I'm not leaving the board. So thank you to everyone for carrying the torch from here. So with that, I'll pass it to my buddy Frank Galuccio.
Hey, I think I'm on, right? Live?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes.
Thank you, Howard.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Alexa's not going anywhere. I will miss her dearly. We've formed a great team, and all the crazy phone calls. And we agreed to disagree in the very beginning, and she did so much in the past 26 months that it's really unbelievable when I look back through the years that we've done, that we've worked here. Some house cleaning, just so you know. I don't know. It's hard to. Thank you, Alexa. Really, you know where I am with that. Probably I'm going on because I can't talk. The Volleys, Forest Hills Ambulance Corps, they're doing a great thing. If you know the right across from their headquarters, they will be painting a mural, 9/11 mural. A lot of neighborhoods are doing it. They've gotten some grant money from the city, and that is proceeding as we speak. And when they have that event, I hope many of the community board members attend. It'll be great. Today, I attended the Veterans Day memorial service over by the Vietnam Memorial over in Elmhurst, the old tanks, if you all remember that. DA ran it, and so did Donovan Richards. It was quite well attended. It also was a beautiful day, and they honored a number of vets for their long-time service. We just got through Election Day, early voting, and all that stuff. It's beyond us. Now we move forward into the future and see how that all happens. And thank you for voting, and whether it be on Election Day or early voting, even though we're not supposed to be political, I'm allowed to say that. The office is closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. And again, I want to say happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure we won't be talking to everybody at that point, but as you all know, the office is open 9 to 5, even though tonight we were getting calls at 6 o'clock. I don't know if anybody, Bruce, we want to pay the overtime for my staff. It's great, but yeah, just remember it's 9 to 5. We are there early, and we appreciate everybody calling in. But 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and I would appreciate that. We don't give out our personal cell phone numbers. That seems to be an issue this week. I know a lot of people have my cell phone number, and I don't have a problem with that, but my staff or union employees most certainly appreciate it if that didn't happen. Again, thank you for always being there, Alexa. To the executive staff, I never had an executive staff that worked so hard and has always been transparent. And again, we've all agreed to disagree, which is a wonderful thing that we could say and do that and still go out and have a cup of coffee, or as somebody said today, a beer. So thank you, and we go forward now. Alexa, it's back to you. Thank you.
Thank. Okay, so with that, we're gonna move on to the I was gonna say meat and potatoes, but I'd prefer to say like tofu and sweet potatoes. And we will go onto the Land Use and Housing Committee report. So I will hand it off to Chair Prameet Kumar. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, let me share my screen. Let me know when you see it. Can you see it?
Yep.
Great. All right, let's get started. So we had a land use and housing committee last week where we discussed the proposed development and rezoning at the site of the Trilon Theater and Ornaton Synagogue that you all have undoubtedly heard about. So here's what we're going to do. I'll give a quick overview to the rezoning application. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with it already, but I'll give a quick 101 again. I'll let you know what feedback the committee had to the applicant's presentation to the committee, as well as some of the responses the applicants already come back to us with. I'll summarize the sort of back and forth we've had so far. Then I'll hand it over to Eric Palatnik, who's the attorney for the applicant, for a brief presentation. Then we'll do a board Q&A, and we'll end with some public hearing. We have written and in-person comments that we'll go through. So just to situate everyone, we're talking about 9881 Queens Boulevard. The Google map is on your left, street view is on your right. It's the triangle-shaped lot with the Tower Diner and the Ornaton Synagogue. So briefly, what the application is for is it's for a rezoning that will allow for a 15-story mixed-use development, about 144 apartments, 136,000 square feet residential, 17,000 plus square feet for commercial. And just FYI, we're not going to be voting today. This meeting is just a discussion and public hearing, and in the coming weeks, we'll have a committee vote, and then our board will vote in our December meeting, and that'll be our sort of binding vote for the city. Also, we are aware of the petition online that has more than 3,000 signatures at this point. We really appreciate the community's concerns, and I know a number of people who have signed the petition have signed up for speaking today. I just want to address one thing up front. I know I've been doing it in several meetings, but one big bucket of concern raised by this petition is, should we build anything at all there, or can we save the existing structures? And I just want to say up front that there's no power that the community board has to prevent anything existing, any of the existing structures from being demolished. These structures are not landmarked, so the developer could, as of right, start construction there tomorrow if they wanted to. And the community would not be able to do anything about that specific piece of it. So just to recap, so we're all on the same page, there's no power that the community board has where we can say to the developer, you can't build anything on that lot and you have to keep everything as is. That being said, what we can do as a community board is approve or disapprove of the zoning changes. So let's talk about the zoning changes for a second. So the zoning changes would allow for the developer to build more units in exchange for affordable units going in there. And we'll get to the sort of trade-off in a bit. But there were 5 main points that the land use committee had that we went to the developer with that we thought would improve this proposal. One was we wanted more affordable units. And lower rents for those units. The second was we wanted to make sure that the businesses and the tenants that are currently in that location would get preference to come back if they wanted to. The third is we had some concerns around traffic flow in that area, and especially related to a stop sign that we want to put in there. The next was, while there was construction going on, we wanted to make sure that the construction could be as minimally disruptive as possible, including to the bike lanes in the area and all the sort of surrounding community members who live in that area. And the last thing that a few people brought up was trying to get community space in that building that the community in general could use. So the applicant responded to us, and they were willing to work with us. They've been very cooperative throughout this process. So I want to summarize some of what they said here, and then Eric from the sort of applicant team can say some of this in his own words. So first of all, the traffic conditions, they're supportive of the all-way stop sign that we want put in the area. They've done their own traffic study that they've shared with us. So they said that wherever possible, they're willing to help us with the Department of Transportation and sort of any of our endeavors there. In terms of construction, they're agreeing to work with the Department of Buildings and DOT to make sure construction is sort of as minimally disruptive as possible. and to make sure that the bike lanes are open. With regard to the existing businesses, they have said that they are open to give preference to the existing businesses that want to come back, and they're going to continue having discussions with those tenants. So they seem amenable to that. The big sort of difference we had between what the land use committee wanted and what the applicant came back with was the rents. So right now, the way that mandatory inclusionary housing works is that the developer can sort of choose the percent. And I'm just simplifying this a little bit. It's a pretty complicated process, but basically, the developer can choose what percent of area median income to sort of target for this affordable housing. So there's going to be 44 affordable apartments in this development, and they're going to be broken down into 3 different affordable buckets. Some will be 70% of area median income, some will be 80, and some will be 90. And the city determines what the rents at those percentages will be. So what we had been hoping for was for the applicant to come back with something a little lower than an average weighted average of 80%. We wanted something closer to 70. But the applicant has said, and Eric, you can elaborate more on this, that the economics don't make sense if they go below 80% AMI. So this is a table that they provided to us, and we can send the applicant's full response to the board out via email. But this is a table where they compared their current breakdown for affordability versus the prevailing market rents. So what they're saying is, for example, a 1-bedroom household making 70% AMI would pay $1,500 a month, which is about 58% of comparable market rate rental unit of $2,585, and that market rate they got was through a company called M&S Real Estate NYC, and it looks at rents for units in elevator buildings in the last 90 days in the surrounding area. Just FYI. And then the final point here is a big question that we had was, all right, so what is the exact decision that we're making with regards to this zoning? As I said earlier, the power that the community board has is to either approve or disapprove of the zoning. So if we approve of the zoning, if you look at this table, we'll get what we have on the right. We'll get 144 apartments, and about 44 of them will be affordable units with the affordability that we just mentioned in the previous slide. If we say no to this, the developer can still develop on that property. They'll just have to develop as of right without the change in zoning. And what the developer has said is that if they develop as of right, it'll look something like the column on the left that says as of right. It'll actually be 16 stories, so 1 story higher than the proposed development of 15 stories. And it'll have fewer apartments. So basically, it'll be a little taller and skinnier, and it'll have no affordable units. So 103 total apartments, and none of them affordable according to MIH, because that wouldn't be applicable anymore. So that's the sort of the 2 scenarios that the applicant would have us consider, what they would do as of right versus what they would do if the zoning proposal is approved. And with that being said, Eric, why don't I pass it off to you? I just summarized a lot of what we had talked about. I'm sure you have some things that you want to say as well. So I'll stop sharing, and let's keep it within 5 minutes if possible.
Yeah,
I know we have a long agenda ahead of us.
You know, for those people, Pramit, if it's okay, you did a great job presenting there. You're a really good speaker, by the way. You know, they're lucky to have you. You got a very calm, soothing, comprehensive voice. If you could please pull up the last slide that you had up. I have Austin here. He can do it. But if you're capable, it would be great, because that's really a good slide for me to talk about. If you can't, I can ask Austin.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I got it.
Did I mess you up? You're already there. I can ask.
Nope.
Here
we go.
Okay, so hi, good evening, everybody, and good evening to the full board. My name is Eric Palatnik, and I'm going to pull up some renderings of the proposed building in a second. But I really just want to start where it was left off a minute ago. We're happy to be here tonight. I'm representing the Abramov family, and they're developing the site. They are fully committed to keeping a community facility space such as a synagogue, and even trying to work with the existing synagogue to stay in the building. I know a lot of people are concerned. I'm happy to report to everybody that they signed a deal today with 32BJ, the labor union, for building maintenance. So the building will be a union-run building and for maintenance, and that is conditioned upon the approval of your board tonight and us getting a rezoning request. We are anxious to keep the bike lane in full operation, just like you've asked for, work on the traffic issues that are going on, have our traffic consultants work with your board, because anything that improves traffic around the site helps the applicant in any development. But the real thing I wanted to pull up and call to your attention tonight is there was a lot of discussion for those board members who might not have been at the last meeting, suggesting that the building is too big for the neighborhood and that it's too much. And if they give the zoning change, they're changing the neighborhood. If you stare at this chart, which we're really asking you to do, and the most important, the maximum height, the number of stories, which is the second to last row at the bottom there. I want you to notice that the proposed building, if you say no to this, is a 16-story building. The Abramovs already own the site. They're committed. They're local neighborhood developers. They're developing Parkway Hospital right now. They are active in your community. They would like to develop a quality building here, and to do so, they'd like the zoning change. That would create a 15-story building, 1 story shorter. And if you gave them the consent here, it would also create 44 affordable units. That's 44 apartments for moms, dads, grandparents, kids, everybody, hardworking families. And if you notice the rent chart we showed a second ago was up on your screen, it's a substantial reduction off of market rate. I showed it to my parents. My parents are living on a fixed budget. My mother said, how do I get a unit here? I said, Mom, you got to move back into Queens where you grew up in Forest Hills. She said, oh, I can't do that. So you're lucky. You've got this available. You've got a local applicant who's going to make a building. And Austin, while you're on the screen here, actually, just so we can call it out again, for those who weren't really paying very close attention here, the right side column shows what the market rate rent is. So for example, the left-hand side column shows the building, the unit size. So a 3-bedroom goes in your neighborhood for nearly $4,000 a month, 3,758. That's what you could pay in the market. Michael and the Abramovs, if you got in here at the 70% bracket, you'd be paying $2,000 a month, nearly half, maybe 60% of what's, and we do the math there, 55%. That's a substantial saving for a family with a husband and a wife that's on a fixed income, working as police, firefighters, education, working at anything that they might not necessarily be a lawyer like myself. But they're doing good for society and they want to stay in the neighborhood. There's a lot of jokes about lawyers. So I say firefighters and police officers and all the people that got us through the pandemic. And with that, and showing you the savings that we're creating for people in the neighborhood, Austin, can you show the building, please? I'd ask Austin to share the screen, please. And Austin, if you go right to the last rendering in the imagery. And I want to show everybody who wasn't at the original hearing or hasn't been, go right to the end, Austin, to the beautiful picture, right there. This is what the Abramovs want to build. The building that can be built, if you say no tonight, is 1 story taller. They already own the site. They are committed to the site. They have to build. What letting them build under the proposed R8X zoning does is it gives them an extra bit of fluff and profit and the ability to create something nice here. Without it, they are right at the margins on it, and they're building to get out of the way of it. I don't know if all of you have been paying attention, but the pandemic has caused inflation, and building supplies are through the roof. Lumber, glass, brick, everything it takes to build a building. The current zoning doesn't work. If the R71 zoning that's there now worked, you would all be seeing beautiful buildings sprout up and down Queens Boulevard in all different directions. Instead, you're seeing the remnants.
Eric, you got a half a minute.
I'm done in 10 seconds. You're seeing the remnants of the 1960s. The Abramovs have tried to incorporate the design of the Trilon Diner in here. That's what you see at the point with that design, with the glass and the clock. And we're hoping that you could find your way to support them this evening. We have many speakers who want to speak in support of it. Many have tried to. I know they've reached out to our office. And if they're not here tonight, I'm sure they'll indicate their support via letters to the board. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Why don't we go to board comments and Q&A now, and let's prioritize board members who aren't on the land use committee, who are perhaps speaking on this for the first time, and let's use a raise hand function if we can.
Perfect. Can we stop the screen share so we can see people?
Yes.
Thank you.
There we go. Who has any questions or comments?
It's a sign of a good
Board.
presentation when you anticipate the questions and answer them in your presentation. But if we don't have any questions, we can.
I see Pat and Edwin.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do it. Pat and Edwin. Pat, why don't you start?
Hi there. Will these apartments be rent stabilized and protected for the residents who move in there under rent stabilization? Also, will the building be dedicated, will have dedicated abilities for people who are disabled? Thank you.
Let me answer that question. My name is Alvin Shine. I'm working with Eric in affordable housing aspects of the project. So all of the affordable units will be under mandatory inclusionary for the life of the building, which means that they'll be under rent stabilization for the life of the building. Apartments, any increases in rent will be subject to permitted rent increases under rent stabilization. The building will, because it's being built, it's an interesting question about handicapped access. Because of the inclusionary program, there's a higher level of handicapped accessibility for this project. So that 5% of all of the units in the building be handicapped accessible, not just adaptable, but accessible. Another 2% will be hearing and visually accessible, meaning for people who are either hard of hearing or have poor eyesight or who are blind. So the apartments will be designed specifically for that purpose. The common area of the building, such as the hallways, the mailroom, laundry room, the elevator, will all be handicapped accessible. So that is all taken into account in the construction.
Alexa, if I may.
Sorry, who was that?
Ethan.
Ethan, sorry. Let's go to Edwin first, and then
Sure.
yeah, and then we'll do you, Ethan. Go ahead, Edwin. Edwin, you're still on mute if you're trying to talk.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the presentation. The quick question I had is I just want to better understand the difference between the as of right and the proposed. I know it's saying that the 44 affordable units won't be available if you do the as of right. Can you just explain just a little bit more about, because it looks like you're going to lose the residential, right? So that's the key. Is that a matter of economics? Because you can't build more units that are affordable on the residential side, so therefore.
I could just quickly speak, and then I'll hand it over to you, Eric. But if we don't do the rezoning, the applicant is under no legal right to provide the affordable units. So basically, all of them can be market rate. If we allow the rezoning, then there's this program called mandatory inclusionary housing that would compel the applicant to add the affordable units. And that's the basic difference. That's why it's 0 versus 44.
Yeah. Okay.
Eric, feel free to add anything else.
It's an economic, right? Thanks.
That's correct answer. It's Edwin. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It's just it's basically it's your. I mean, the way I understand it's really all economics basically.
It's the dollar cents.
Yep. Got it. Thank you.
All right, Ethan, go ahead.
Thanks, Permeet, and thanks for the presentation. My question is, if the application for the zoning change is not approved, what does the developer intend to do with the existing synagogue, diner, and the entire property?
Well, the entire property is, the developer has the right to demolish the entire property right now. They're not under an obligation to keep anybody there. They have been working feverishly to try and keep the synagogue there. You might not have been, Ethan, at the earlier hearing, but we've showed a plan that we've included on the plan, the synagogue space. And the applicant happens to be religious in their Jewish observances, and that's only relevant because it's their dedication to their religion, and they desire to keep a synagogue in space, and their desire to commit to the synagogue that's there, and if not them, hopefully somebody else. But they would like the existing synagogue to remain, and they can come to some sort of amicable solution. If they do not get the rezoning, the idea would be that the building would be demolished, just as is in the rezoning proposal, and instead of a 15-story building, a 16-story building would be constructed, and still include space at the ground floor for a synagogue. And it would also at the second floor, there'd be more space. And it would also include commercial space at the ground floor. At that point, their ability to give rent concessions to the synagogue, which is what they've been trying to do right now, and offer them an extremely lengthy lease term with a very discounted lease rate to the existing synagogue. That's all being helped by the rezoning. If they don't get the rezoning, then they are up against the economic wall on the existing R71 zoning, and that leeway gets a little restricted from them on the price that they could charge. So our hope would be that we can get the R8X, charge a very substantially below market rent to the existing synagogue, give them a long-term lease, and build a 15-story building. But to answer your question, if that doesn't happen, we would construct a 15-story building still with a synagogue. There would definitely be a much different rent structure on the space, and we're still committed to the existing synagogue that's there, and we'd try our best to give them the best we possibly could under the R71 scenario.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Brendan, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thanks, Prameet. And thank you, Mr. Palatnik, for the presentation. I know you mentioned the arrangement you have with SEIU Local 32BJ. I appreciate that. That's a good step. Can you just let me know how many jobs that'll create? About how big will the staff be?
You know, I don't know.
Gotta get those own changes.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I don't want to misspeak. Michael, do you know?
I'll try to give an overall overview. During the construction phase, we're talking about hundreds of jobs, but specifically for
when the building's built, he's talking about.
Yeah, for 32BJ, we're gonna have concierge front desk. How many of them? Unsure. Porters, multiple of them. Handymen, multiple of them. A super will be one of them. We're unsure how the amenity spaces are going to be run, but there as well. Security for the building, we're unsure of how many we'll need. We'll obviously want to make sure that the building is secure at all times at night. That's additional jobs. So the exact quantity hasn't been determined, but we're talking about a substantial amount of staff, potentially.
And I appreciate you mentioning the construction jobs as well. Are you in dialogue with any unions of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York?
No, we have not been talking to any of them.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Howie.
The question is about the corner where the tower diner is with the mailbox. They're going to leave the mailbox there, or they're going to move the mailbox?
Howard, I had a conversation earlier about the mailboxes, so I know that's you've got some expertise there. I'll talk to Michael and we'll communicate with the post office and find out. I would imagine it will stay, and if it's impacted during construction, it may be temporarily relocated. But a mailbox, great thing to have.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sorry, who was that?
My name is Martha.
Hey, Martha, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Martha.
How many housing units are we talking about?
You're talking about creating 144 under the proposal, 44 of which are affordable.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Martha, for service and volunteerism.
All right. Anyone else before we go to the public hearing?
Yeah.
Mark, did you just raise your
I
hand?
just raised my hand. Yeah, I was
Oh,
waiting
Mark, go
to
ahead.
make sure everybody else asked their questions because I know I was on the committee hearing a couple of days ago.
Go ahead, Mark.
Right. So just wanted to confirm. I know we discussed this at the committee hearing, but I just wanted to go one public here too. My first question has to do with what's going to happen with Ornaton during the construction phase. I think last week you had mentioned that they're looking to move to the 99-cent store around the corner. Is that still accurate?
To the best of my knowledge and the information that I've been told, they've actually already found the space across the street, and they're currently in a build-out phase. How accurate that is, I'm unsure, but I've had multiple sources tell me that they've relocated across the street.
Okay, great. And the second question is, I think, and I know Primit mentioned it in the committee ask, and I haven't heard a response yet about a separate community space that could be used in the building. Is that something that is possible for this new building?
We have discussed it. Eric brought that to our attention as one of the pointers from the board, and we're discussing it internally and seeing how we can cut certain space and allocate it to a global community center. Nothing finite. It's too short of a span between 1 week for us to figure this out, and this is most likely going to take a course of 3, 4, 5 months for us to really figure out where, what, how, egress, liability, use, so forth, so on. But it is something that we are considering to do, and over time we'll have a more definitive plan.
Yeah, that would be really great, because I think this community can use more space. So I think it would be wonderful if that could be incorporated.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
We suddenly have a number of people who just raised
Yeah,
their
I
hands.
see Heidi and Heather are new hands. So Heidi, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. I just want to clarify because I want to make sure I heard right. In the event that the variance is not granted, is it still going to be a union building? And are you still going to have the community spaces, or is the union building, once it's constructed and also possibly during construction, only if the variance is granted?
Hi, Heidi. It's Eric. Thank you for your question. To clarify, the union is for the building services. It's not for construction. It's only when it's operating. It's operating services. Conditioned upon the granting of a rezoning. We signed a contract with them, an agreement with them that binds us upon the granting of a rezoning to utilize their services.
And in the event that there's not a rezoning and you build as of right, then that's out the window?
That's out the window. And the reason why it's out the window so quickly like that is it's a cost. Again, it's down to dollars and cents. It's very hard to make the money that's needed to supply the superior union services under the existing zoning, as it is impossible to provide the affordable housing all on the developer's dime without the rezoning. So the ask is that in exchange for the R8X, it facilitates both the affordable housing on the back of the developer, which is 44 units, and it allows the developer to have a little more jingle in their pocket, which allows them to spend a little more money on building services, which are well spent money with 32 PJ, which will run the building top notch.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Heather, let's go to you. Then we have Pat and Tanya.
Just really quickly, I actually walked down. I'm on 66 in Austin, so I walk past the site all the time, and I can tell you, because I'm on the other side of Queens Boulevard, that Trilon Liquors has left the property. They are across the street, actually closer to me, not so bad. I have also that there is a lot of work going on at the 99-cent store. I've seen big, trash bins outside that are getting full, so there is some kind of activity there. And I also, I think it was posted on social media that the cycle shop that's there is just going to be a little further down the hill. So it's also vacating. So it's clear that places are slowly finding homes. And the good thing is that they all are staying close. So I just wanted to say that, because it seems like there's some questions floating around as to, in obscurity as to where these places are. That's it. Thank you.
If I may comment on that, just from our side of how we helped make that happen, was we approached all of the tenants 6, 7, 8 months ago in advance and told them that we're here to help them find a space, give them time to relocate. The pharmacy relocated. Tower Diner found a new is going to the Dine Bar. The synagogue is, from what you're saying, is going into the 99-cent store. The bike shop is going on Queens Boulevard. They found another location. Mark from the liquor store, he did go across the street next to the 99-cent store. The offices upstairs, the attorney, the construction office, there are a few smaller. They all found other locations. They were all given ample amount of time, and we helped in that aspect. So thank you for that comment. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Heather. Pat, go ahead.
Just a couple of points and a question. I'm disabled. I live in the community over there. By this property, which will become a construction site, it's going to be difficult for a lot of disabled people in the community being able to walk up the hill on 99th Street or walk down the hill on Queens Boulevard. First of all, I'm just a couple blocks away from the where the construction site will be. And if I get off the bus from the Q60 up there and walk down 99th Street, that's a single sidewalk across the street. And it's going to be really difficult for a lot of disabled people and people with baby carriages, people with shopping carts, people with wheelchairs. Instead of having two sides of 99th Street to walk on, there'll only be one side of 99th Street. As far as Queens Boulevard goes, how are you going to be capping off that entire block of the from the triangle? Will there be available space for people to walk on that side, or are they going to be forced to walk on the other side of Queens Boulevard? Next, the last thing is concerning the buses that go down Queens Boulevard. Since at some point you will, there'll be loss of the parking spaces over there. And since you are going to be keeping, the access to the bike lanes, it's going to be, how are you going to do the access on that block, especially for people who require that to walk? And my last question is, what are the sizes of the apartments in square feet that you're going to be building, especially for those who are of the MIH, I believe it's called, the affordable housing? What's going to be the size and square footage of the apartments for them? Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
It was a few questions bundled up together. Just to go on the most recent one, there is no discretionary affordable and market rate. They will all be the same. As to exact sizes and layouts and so forth, it's a work in progress. In regards to street closures, just to get a visual of both 99th Street and Queens Boulevard has sidewalk, one lane of parking, one lane driving, and then a bike lane. It's a requirement that any job site work with DOT and provide both a temporary walkway, which is known as a DOT walkway. It'll be a protected site. It'll be a protected area where pedestrians could walk. The parking that's going to be eliminated that you mentioned, it will be temporarily unavailable, but the parking that is allocated on that Queens Boulevard and 99th Street side is mostly used for those retail shops that during the construction phase will not be there. I don't remember if there was one other question or not, but I hope I answered all of your concerns.
The other question was what's going to happen concerning 99th Street? Because walking on the other side of the street where the apartment building is, it's one 4 foot by 4 foot flagstone to walk on, walk that entire block.
DOT will require us to maintain a temporary walkway both on Queens Boulevard, 99th Street, and 66. So there will be a way for pedestrians to walk carefully on all the streets adjacent to this property.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Tanya, let's go to you.
And then Miriam, we'll go to you too, okay? Miriam will come to you after. Sorry, Tanya, I just want to acknowledge Miriam doesn't have her hand raised, but we see you and we'll come back to you after Tanya, okay?
Okay, hi. I have actually 3 quick questions. The first one is that I know the tower has relocated, but once the building goes up, is there going to be some commercial space for the possibility of it going back? That's the first question.
To answer that question is yes. I've actually approached John and Spyro about a month or so ago, or a month and a half ago, asking if they'd like to commit to a space today. And with their concerns due to COVID, they didn't want to commit to it. However, our team has decided to take the risk and put a couple extra dollars in and provide ventilated restaurant space for them on the corner of 99th and Queens Boulevard where they're currently located. And I told both John and Spyro that they don't have to commit to me today and that we'll talk over the course of the construction. And if they want it and when they're ready, we'll make it happen.
Okay, great. Second question. There are going to be families, I'm assuming, that are coming in with kids. Where are those kids going to go? I keep hearing from a lot of parents, you know, in my building and just generally that the schools are overcrowded. Has there been some discussion with you guys about where those kids will go to school?
I believe that's an Eric Palatnik question where we've done a study.
I'm going to answer that question. I don't know if you could hear me okay. Hi, Tanya. How are you? Yeah, the school issue is a big issue in all of New York City. It's a common question that we get a lot. The first answer to your question is that we did a city environmental quality review analysis as a part of the application. And one of the impact categories that's required to be studied is schools. And there's a secret threshold for whether or not it'll trip that or cause a problem. And this did not cause a problem. It received a sign off from the city's environmental quality review division. So that's the first answer, but that's a technical answer. The practical answer to your question is that I know that the schools in New York City, we all know that schools are overcrowded, and the school construction authority is doing its best to build schools as quickly as they can to catch up with it. That doesn't mean that this development won't have an impact on the school system. It will add more children, but it will not overwhelm it to the point that it will not be able to function, nor will it cause any sort of critical dysfunctional component to it. It's not enough to tip the iceberg. So you're right to raise the issue, and it's definitely a salient point. The city cannot continue to prosper and attract talented people and commit them or attract them to stay here instead of moving to Florida or everybody else went during the pandemic unless we have good schools. So I do hear you, and I thank you for bringing up that issue, but this won't trip any thresholds.
Okay.
I know on this board specifically, Heather has been looking at the impact of construction projects on schools, and maybe in a future meeting we can follow up on that.
Okay.
I mean, if I could just add one note on that issue, is that these students in the elementary school will be zoned for 175. And as comes out annually, there was a capacity report that was distributed less than a week ago, and that school is over capacity. And so we are having discussions with people that need to be aware of this, so that maybe some appropriate decisions. And I think the thing is, I understand what you're saying about thresholds, but many of us in the education space question those thresholds and think those thresholds aren't realistic, especially in a post-pandemic era where you want to have appropriate class sizes. So this is something we're looking at. We understand you've done your due diligence, but I think questions still linger just because of the city's threshold, not necessarily because of something you've done. Thanks, and I'm sorry for butting in. Forgive me.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Heather. Appreciate it.
Actually, that's great. Heather, thank you for that. Yeah, that's excellent. Final
Great.
question, if I may.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tanya. Yeah, go ahead. Real quick.
There's been a talk about a lot of green space on building tops, on building roofs. Is your building going to have that kind of capacity if your residents are looking to create more green space or gardens on its rooftop?
So yes, we are working with our designers, our landscapers, and our architects, and we have a few rooftop spaces that are going to be allocated for green spaces rather than usable spaces. We have certain spaces that are allocated for barbecue stations, lounge chairs, relax stations. Then we have other spaces that we're allocating for these smaller garden green spaces where it's less for live and play. It's more for relax and plant. So yes, we have taken that into account.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tanya. And then Miriam, you'll be our last questioner. Go ahead, Miriam.
Miriam, you're muted.
You're on
so
mute.
I'm going to press, I've requested that you unmute yourself. So just accept that. That'll pop up on your screen. Yep, you're good to go. And Miriam, just keep your mouth in front of your audio, in front of your microphone, okay?
Yes. Okay. I realize that the discussion and dialogue today has to do primarily, okay, with the situation. So, obviously, there were a lot of discussions and meetings and what have you with the powers that be, with the Abrama family, as far as just having for them to have, jurisdiction over this property and over this location. Just to preface what I want to say is that a few weeks ago, there was this whole article, okay, in the New York Post regarding this exact situation. It said, neighbors save our synagogue and a fight over Queens Boulevard teardown. There were over 3,500 residents that, aside from zoning or before they even got up to the zoning situation, that these 3,500 residents plus were very much against, okay, having this development built in the first place, aside from zoning. I keep repeating, for emphasis, the zoning factor. They felt, okay, and I agree, because I have been living, okay, in this area for over 30 years. I remember it when there was a political club on that block. There was the flourishing Trilon Theater, okay, which was packed, especially over the weekend, et cetera, et cetera. And I've seen, the neighborhood and buildings and people and what have you, residents come and go and so on and so forth. Not only, okay, is the fact, I haven't heard any word, which I'm sure you have taken into consideration, the congestion, okay, aside from the advantages or aside from the pluses in this particular development, the disadvantages are, I think we can all agree, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a lot of congestion in this area. And aside from the congestion, there are economic hardships, okay, that have been cited in this article, okay, for many businesses in the surrounding area. As far as, the building itself, of course, the people living in the building, the residents, okay, are going to have guests, they're going to have relatives, they're going to have parties, they're going to have whatever. I'm trying to understand, with all the current congestion and the fact that the bike lanes, okay, which is a done deal, which is a tremendous inconvenience, not just to me, but for a lot of other people, okay, as I said, it's a done deal. I don't know what we could ever do about that. But the fact is, where are the people or the guests or the relatives or the friends or whatever category you want to say, where are those people going to park their cars, okay, when they come to visit or be a guest, okay, of the people that are going to be existing in these.
Miriam, just in the interest of time, I'll cut you off there. So Eric, that's the question. What are we doing about parking that this would cause?
Not only parking, I feel, generally speaking, as I said, we're beyond that. I get it, but I will say it anyway, that it will only add to the congestion, which is currently in this area that nobody could really deny.
So Miriam, I'm going to stop you there because I just want to remind everyone that's on the board and listening that this site will be developed with or without our approval, which we are voting in December. What this developer is coming to us for is a variance that would include affordable housing. It would change the structure of their building and other things that we've negotiated with them. However, the site is owned by this family that will develop it either way. So that is the conversation that we're having. We've talked to them about parking, about impact to traffic along the way, and they've been.
Yeah.
Someone else is unmuted here, but Eric has been open with us about being on board with our board to make any shifts in investigating how we can least impact traffic and congestion in the area. Yes. But the item on the floor is not whether or not this will be torn down and developed. Okay. And we're going to have to move on. I mean, we have close to 20 people who are going to be speaking about this. And so I guess we'll go back to the developer to quickly answer Miriam's question, and then we'll move on to the people who have signed up to speak.
And I just so I'm clear, the question is, how will this be impacting parking?
No, it's not just limited
Parking
to
and congestion.
Congestion is the big factor.
And Miriam, I can understand your concern. My family, as I alluded to earlier, is from Forest Hills, and I've been in the area for years. But the area also happens to be blessed with a tremendous amount of mass transit, and the property happens to rest right above it. So I would suggest to you that with the 46 parking spaces that are proposed, and the property could accommodate even more. And with the trend these days for most of the younger families to be very not as car centric as the previous generations may, I don't think that your fear of seeing the massive amounts of congestion will exist. Not just that, the building could be constructed with or without the approval, and it could still include, although not as many, a number of families. I mean, we could still create a building that has 103 dwelling units in it. So the difference is really just 40 apartments, which I don't think is the make or break. So I can understand the congestion issues that you're positing. And if we were putting up a shopping center here, or if we're just adding another floor and putting a Target here, or putting a Chick-fil-A here, or putting anything that attracts people in cars, I would agree with you. But you've got young families coming in here that hopefully are going to be working every day, and they're going to be using daycare in the area and going to the shuls and the churches in the area and going to the coffee shops in the area and going to the liquor store across the street. And hopefully those are the people that you're going to be bringing in here, similar to yourself and other people that live in your neighborhood that are probably on this call right now. They probably walk the streets every day. That's what we're hoping to do.
Thanks, Eric. With that being said, why don't we move on to the public hearing now? I know we want to move this along in the interest of time. So we have both submitted written comments and people who want to speak in person. So we're going to start with the written comments. We're going to allot 2 minutes per comment. Some of the written comments are longer, so we're going to abridge them and just cut them off when we get to around 2 minutes. So Mark, keep me honest. We have 15 written comments, and I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. All right, number 1. As an architectural historian and New York City resident, I am writing to ask the board to consider denying the zoning map amendment being sought for 9881 Queens Boulevard. I regularly give historical and architectural tours of Forest Hills and Rego Park as part of my project, Queens Modern. The Tower Diner and Trilon Theater sites are highlights on the tours I give, both for their historical significance and the way they fit into the streetscape of the neighborhood and along Queens Boulevard. I would encourage the CB to deny the rezoning request and encourage retention of the existing structures, or at the least ask a developer to work under the existing zoning for their plans, which would better fit within the development of Rego Park and Forest Hills. Thank you for your consideration, and please let me know if you have any questions. Frampton Tolbert. Number 2, this is my letter regarding the destruction of the Tower Diner. First of all, we're running out of diners. At least 3 other diners have been torn down in the general area before the plans for the Tower Diner to go to. If we continuously tear down businesses, replace with apartment buildings, we're going to end up way overpopulated with mobbing and crowding on sidewalks and in subway stations and on the local buses. We don't have enough supermarkets to support all the shopping needs of the newcomers. Before COVID, Austin Street and Continental Avenue were so crowded that I had to wait in line quadruple thick just across the street. People would brush by me all the time with a jab because there is not enough room. The lines for a cashier at markets like Natural and Austin Street were wrapped around the interior of the store. When I wait in line to pick up a prescription at Rite Aid, the waiting time is generally around 15 minutes, if not more. Why is some real estate planner so anxious and greedy to add all these new apartment buildings in Forest Hills and Rego Park? Where are the parking spaces for so many more residents? I want to emphasize that this is not a natural balance. We're losing businesses and restaurants and shops, but we're bringing in more people. The Tower Diner is part of the history of our area. It has local charm and is much used by the community. Please reconsider those plans of destroying the Tower Diner and consider and take into account the needs of the people already here. I will be signing and sharing the petition, Miriam Cohen, Forest Hills. Number 3, I have lived in Forest Hills since 1968, and it's the only neighborhood I've loved and cared about during the past several decades. I am deeply disturbed to have found out that there are plans to demolish Ornaton Synagogue, previously known as the Trilon Theater, which was built in 1939, as well as the Tower Diner, which has been part of our community for as long as I've been living here. By seeing such historic buildings, longtime and newer residents are able to witness the aesthetic and cultural history of an area. Just as banks prefer to build stately, old-fashioned facades, a city needs old buildings to maintain a sense of permanency and heritage. This reality brings to light the importance of locating and saving buildings of historic significance, because once a piece of history is destroyed, it is lost forever. I have signed the petition online, have shared it on my Facebook page, and I hope that our efforts will be successful. Monica Polikoff. Number 4, I have lived across the street from what is now the Tower Diner for the last 61 years and used to go to matinees at the Trilon movie theater, now Ornaton. Ergo, I feel qualified to comment on the proposed building plans for this site. The building that houses the Tower Diner is a structure unique to this neighborhood, and the old Trilon Theater has architectural details that deserve to be preserved. The small businesses that surround these entities are crucial to this neighborhood. The proposed new building is to be 17 stories containing 170 apartments with no provision for a garage. Parking in this area is already impossible, and a greedy developer wants to make it worse. The reason there will not be a garage is that this site is directly above a busy subway line. My concerns are real. Will this site over the subway line support a fully occupied 17-story building? If it cannot, imagine the loss of lives and injuries that will cause. Also of note would be the further overcrowding of the local public schools. How can you expect to educate children when they cannot fit into the classrooms? The high school is already on triple session. What about the proposed building blocking all the sunlight from the trees on my block? Some of the last trees in Rego Park. And our apartments will also be constantly dark. What if all the new residents further crowding public transportation that is already falling short of what is needed? Allowing the destruction of classic and necessary neighborhood buildings and businesses would just be wrong. Adding to the already crowded schools, streets, and public transportation would put a huge strain on the current residents of Rego Park. Please do not allow this scenario to become a reality. Allison Borden. Number 5, good evening. We are 100% for the rezoning and redevelopment of the Trilon property, Queens Boulevard and 99th Street, former Tower Diner location. We keep hearing on the news, so many jobs will be destroyed. Think about how many jobs this redevelopment will create, how much tax dollars it will generate. This is a win-win proposition, win for the community, win for the city, and win for the developers. We must support this rezoning and pray it will happen. Nissim Akalov. Number 6, I am writing in support of building the new housing. Everything other than the Windsor is old and outdated. As much as we want to live near family, there are no new buildings as options. We are used to Manhattan. We want modern structures, amenities, luxury. We want stainless steel. We have no problem paying rent as we have consistently been paying rent in Manhattan. We have advanced degrees, steady salary jobs, a good income and savings. We are willing to pay whatever it takes for the type of lifestyle and the standard of living we are used to. We need this building. We need to have the options of rentals. The Facebook chats are all wrong. They mislead people about what is true and what is fake. There's nothing factual about their propaganda. Nothing bad can possibly come from modernizing an outdated area. If you can please take our opinions into consideration as well, we would appreciate that. Shlomi Wigder. Number 7, I would like to join with many others in our Forest Hills Rego Park community in saving our landmark Tower Diner. This is part of what makes our neighborhood special, along with the Ridgewood Savings Bank. Please do all you can to save one of the last relics of our neighborhood. Odette Wilkins. Number 8, my grandmother has lived at 97-10 62nd Drive since 1955 when she moved from the Upper West Side with my infant father. As such, I've spent countless days, weekends, and holidays in Rego Park. As an adult, I frequently take my grandma to lunch at the Tower Diner. New York needs to grow, and the development proposed by RJ Capital Holdings will help do that. Although my grandmother once could afford to move to Rego Park when new housing was abundant, if she didn't own her apartment without a mortgage, there is no way she'd be able to afford to move there now. Building more housing will add to the limited supply of housing in a highly desirable area with amazing shopping and transit options. Michelle Cuppersmith. Number 9, I am a former CB6 member and current resident of Forest Hills. I've heard a lot of negative publicity on the proposed rezoning and would like to voice my opinion on this issue. As a lifelong Forest Hills resident, I want to live in this area next to my parents, grandparents, and community, but there are no new buildings with amenities akin to those in Long Island City or other parts of the city. I want modern accommodations within the confines of Forest Hills. The present Trilon building is not a work of art or beauty. It's an eyesore in the neighborhood that needs to be replaced with something modern, sleek, and new. We want the ability to have modern rentals in the building. The vile lies being spread on Facebook chats are grossly inaccurate and do not share the views of everyone in this area, just those few vocal people who have made it their issue to stop the area from being rejuvenated. I would like to express my opinion on this matter to show that there are people in favor of this upzoning. Mark Kondorov. Number 10, and this one was abridged. I moved here in 1984, and prior we have witnessed much congested communities in other neighborhoods in the borough of Queens. And in the last 10 to 20 years, there has been drastic changes in our communities. There is no stopping with these developers, how they do not realize how they are robbing our families, friends, neighbors, and our children from the importance of the culture and historic buildings that make our community unique. We reside on the side of Queens Boulevard where this lot and triangle block is located. Walking a few feet or blocks and pass by is a pleasure, and avoiding the Queens Boulevard lane, which we do while we can help it, and nicer that we don't have to drive a motor vehicle to head to a nice diner with our families, makes it convenient and a nice and short walk. Above, one can see the iconic tower clock and the Art Deco style. Aside from the Tower Diner is also Ornaton Synagogue slash the Trilon Theater building. It is a significant and historical site. We would like for you to understand and grasp the importance of this small block and how it means so much to those that reside within the area. The developer wants to demolish all just because there is greed, and maybe he does not realize the importance of our community that binds us. There is a synagogue house of worship, a holy place where many congregate on holy days of the year and serve the community as well. Is greed from a developer the reason to demolish a synagogue and take away our Tower Diner? We certainly don't need more congestion and overcrowding the neighborhood with towers of more high-rise buildings. Having a high-rise residential building as a developer's wishes in the middle of the small block is like ripping apart of the heart of our beloved and wonderful gathering place. Here in this historical building, we see the sun shining across, and it affects the sunlight the other residential buildings receive as well. Here we gather, here we shop for fresh fruits and veggies, here we pick up our little gems for gifts, and above all, we are a living congested block as it is. To demolish both and trash would make it impossible
That's
for...
2 minutes, I'm sorry.
Okay, and that was from Nellie Lester Manzo and Gabrielle Manzo, and it was about twice as long, so we got a bit of it. Number 11, this is to support the preservation of the Trilon / Ornaton and Tower Diner block. Please advise if you need additional information. Thank you, Beatrice Hunt. Beatrice, thanks for keeping it short. Number 12, I have lived in the area all of my life. What attracts people to live and work here is a suburban feel of the neighborhood. We do not need nor want the type of the development being proposed. This will lead to more traffic, which is already terrible, as well as the loss of trees, blocking out sunlight, just to name a few. Many people have moved out of the area due to this type of development. The charm and beauty that attracted people to live here is being destroyed. Commercialization will lead to more and more people to leave the area, which many have called home for decades. Our elected officials were elected by voters and must represent our wants and needs and to work for us and not against us. Jeffrey Witt. This one is also abridged, number 13. I would like to take this time to share my thoughts about yet another supersized building that is planning to be built in our area. Please respect the feelings of the residents and homeowners, condo co-op owners who have lived in the area for decades and share them at the meeting if you can. I have lived in Forest Hills for over 30 years and have seen many changes in this neighborhood, some worse than others, but this additional building is totally unacceptable and not necessary. First, there was a rumor that an 8-story building was being proposed. Then I heard through the grapevine it's more than twice that height. It will block all the sunlight on 99th Street, and such a building will not blend in with the architecture and feel of this area. It's almost like the McMansions that seem to bully the original lovely architecture of this area. Each of these houses gets bigger and bigger and loses its beauty and curb appeal. There are no accommodations are in place to preserve whatever is of historic, architectural, or social value on that block. The Tower Diner as an eatery has been important to this area for nearly 30 years and one of the few remaining American food restaurants. As a building, it is historic and has been important for many more decades. It is a neighborhood landmark in much the same way that Ridgewood Bank is in Forest Hills. The same can be said about the Trilon Theater, now Ornaton. Its marquee in front are historic to Regal Park. It is also a major safety issue as the block is small, and I believe the weight of the building will cause massive danger, especially since it's being built over a subway station, and if it were to collapse, our entire transportation system and people would be seriously injured. Please try to renovate the many vacant properties that are around Forest Hills, or those that aren't so near to so much traffic and congestion. Also, what is being done with the property that remains empty that used to be the Parkway Hospital? Why not update that building since the structure is already in place? Again, this was about twice as long, so we abridged it. It's from a Forest Hills resident. Number 14, almost there. I am writing to you with great concern for the loss of the Tower Diner and Trilon Theater. I am an architectural designer for NYC Parks and Recreation, and I have a great deal of experience with historical preservation, reconstruction, and new construction. I am also a native to Queens, and I'm constantly saddened by the uprising of high-rise residential construction, as it has been replacing our heritage buildings. The Tower Diner and Trilon Theater are both sites that have helped to define the characteristics of Forest Hills for many decades, As an architect, I see great potential in working with the existing structures as a way to pay homage to the historical and community significance of this site. With design reinforcements, it is possible that the existing structures and exteriors and portions of interiors can be incorporated into a larger development. I see potential in preserving the Tower Diner's facade and possibly repurposing for commercial use. I envision that the existing rooftop of the diner could serve as a mezzanine green space for planned residents. The Trilon Theater structure could serve as the pediment for a planned residential structure. The facade of Trilon has wonderful Art Deco features referencing the World's Fair, and it would be a shame for this building to be lost to time. The existing ornamentation and design should be preserved and inspire any new construction in a way that is beautiful and gives consideration to the architectural legacy of our building. The grand entrance at Trilon could serve as a wonderfully repurposed entry space. The glass and steel building prototype has plagued New York for the last 30 years, and I would hate to see yet another site fall victim to design without consideration of context. From a historical preservation standpoint, it seems vital to me that these structures need to be saved. I see great potential in an architect's ability to work with the existing structures in an effort to bring new life to a site while still paying homage to architectural significance. Thank you for your time, Jacqueline Lavin. Number 15, this was also abridged. I think this is the last one. I'm a longtime member of the Forest Hills community, having lived in Forest Hills over 25 years. I love the rich history associated with Forest Hills and Regal Park community. I'm sincerely hoping that the Tower Diner Clock Tower building and the Trilon Theater / Ornaton Synagogue can be saved from demolition. I'm also quite concerned that all these new buildings will be a strain on neighborhood resources and will negatively affect my quality of life. I especially love walking and riding by on the bus, seeing the beautiful Tower Diner. The clock tower is so beautiful. I love the iconic Forest Hills architecture. It's extremely meaningful to me that generations before me also enjoyed seeing the beautiful clock tower, first used as community banks, now as a beloved neighborhood diner. I also love seeing the Trilon Theater. I love that the Trilon Theater's architecture is from the 1939 World's Fair era. The Trilon Theater is especially meaningful to me as since it's been used as Ornaton, a Buharian synagogue for decades. It's so heartwarming that a once beloved theater is now the spiritual home for an immigrant Jewish community. I realize that the new proposed building is planning to have a likeness of a clock to mimic the look of the clock tower from the Tower Diner and will have features to resemble the idea of the Trilon Theater. An image or a likeness of two beloved neighborhood buildings can never replace our beloved neighborhood treasures. No one would ever consider demolishing Station Square as it's part of the exclusive and wealthy Forest Hills Gardens. An image or likeness of our Station Square would never replace the real building. I sincerely believe that everyone deserves to appreciate and enjoy beautiful neighborhood architecture, not just wealthy and privileged people who can afford to live in the exclusive Forest Hills Gardens nearby Station Square. Also, it's important to mention that everyone who spoke at the last week's CB6 meeting opposed the demolition of these beautiful neighborhood treasures. Again, this is abridged. It was about twice as long. This is from Cheryl Wasserman. All right, that's all the written comments that we had. Let's go now to our
I just wanted to
speakers.
add one thing for
Yeah.
those comments will be sent around to the board in their entirety. So we just abridged them to fit into the 2-minute time frame for this, but they will be sent around to everyone. So I'm gonna make Richie Zav a panelist. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes, Richie. Richard, you went by Richie on your.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey guys, hi, good evening everybody. My name is Richie Zaviano. I actually live across the street at 6607 99th Street. I lived there for 15 years. I walk the streets practically every day. The reality of this is that I think that this is something that would generally really improve our community. Having somewhere where I can move both near my parents and my community is something that this neighborhood needs. It's very refreshing to hear that there's going to be a lot of amenity spaces. This is going to create jobs. I also love the fact that I hear that this is going to be something that's going to have handicap accessibility. Having both of my best friends being handicapped practically their whole lives and going up in these old buildings that are not really up to date, it is a beautiful feeling that to know that there's somewhere an address that they can be. Generally, where I live and most of the buildings that are available in the neighborhood, I look every day somewhere to live in a better place. A lot of these buildings are outdated, have a lot of mold, mildew, just a lot of saturation, things that need to be long lasted updated. And this is something that we're all, in my opinion, looking forward to. I really want to live next to my parents. There's not a lot of product here. It would be beautiful to have something where I can stay in the neighborhood, live here, and look forward to. I really appreciate the minutes that was given to me, and hopefully you guys can really consider this. I think this is going to be the next cultural experience for our community.
Thanks, Richie. Next up is Shabri. Shabri, you should be able to speak if you unmute yourself. Shabri, you'll have to unmute yourself. Sure if you see that option. While Shabri's figuring that out, I don't see Yuri in our attendee list. I also don't see Alex. I see Gary. So Gary, I'm going to promote you to panelist. So if you can unmute yourself, Gary, feel free to speak while Shabri figures out the tech. Gary, feel free to unmute yourself as well. All right, both Shabri and Gary might be away from their computers. Mark K, the last speaker.
Hello?
Mark Condor. Hey, is that Gary?
Hi, hi. Yeah, I thought I was, I was actually really wanting to talk about the Forest Hills Jewish Center, which I had heard had been, so it doesn't maybe relate to this specific issue. I was concerned. I understand that was recently sold, and that's going to become, that's planned to be an apartment building. I think that's a historic site.
That's not what we're talking about tonight. It's very new in the process. It has not come through the board yet. So
yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking more about that in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a terrible event.
Okay.
The neighborhood is it's very congested. I think if you're going to build an apartment building, the other gentleman said that the apartment buildings are old. That's true. Why not renovate those apartment buildings? In terms of this proposal, 100 units is less than 140. So I would say there's less congestion with 100 units than 140 units. And so I would be in favor of 100 units because it's less, because the neighbor, it's impossible to get, there's too much congestion as it is. And the Trilon, there is an element, there is a historic element in the tower clock. There isn't enough attention being paid to the cultural and architecture of the neighborhood, which is what makes the neighborhood nice. If you get rid of the culture, just like the Forest Hills, which I think is critical to the neighborhood, the Forest Hills
another
Jewish
30
Center,
seconds.
that then you destroy the neighborhood and you'll see crime and congestion, and this will no longer be a nice neighborhood. Okay, I'm
Thanks,
done.
Gary.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Shabri, have you figured out your unmuting yet? If so, feel free to unmute and speak. If not, the only other person on the list who's here is Mark K. I believe that's you, Mark Kondorov. Might be mispronouncing your last name, but Mark, I read your comment as a written comment. So if it's all right, we'll skip your spoken comment since we've already got you.
I just tried to unmute Shabri.
Yeah, I did the same, and it looks like it's not working.
We will still, the board will still accept comments through the end of the week that we'll include in our public record. If there was an issue with someone getting on, WebEx can be a little buggy. Please send your comments in and we will include them in the public record and send them out to our members. And we thank everyone that came here tonight. Back to you, Praveen.
Yeah, all right. So before we sort of end this section, Eric, do you want to wrap up with any sort of comments or responses to the comments we just heard? We can give you a minute or so to respond before we wrap up.
Right, that's very nice of you. Really, I just wanted to comment and thank all the speakers that spoke, especially the ones that spoke in support. I think to the board members, you heard a lot of people speaking in support that spoke about some very salient points, which is that they need housing, and that not allowing the Abramovs to get the rezoning here will only reduce the amount of affordable housing in the neighborhood, which you're hearing from a young person and even some of the older people, that it's something they desperately need. You all had beautiful homes. My family was raised in Forest Hills and in Kew Gardens, and I would ask that you give future generations the same opportunity in beautiful new apartments. So thank you very much for giving us the chance.
Thanks, Eric. All right, just to wrap up, in terms of next steps, land use committee members, I'm going to circulate the written response that I got from the applicant, in response to all of the points that we raised. So we'll have that information. And the next week, let's play it by ear. We might do either an online vote or an in-person vote. Let's talk about what would be best. I feel like at this point, we've discussed a lot. We have a lot of comments. I don't know if there's more discussion we need to do. At this point, we're just in a vote. And then once we have the committee's recommendation, we'll present it to the full board in our December meeting, at which point the whole board will vote, and that'll be our recommendation in response to this zoning application. All right, Alexa, that's all I got.
I'm seeing some. I mean, I'm seeing someone in the Q&A that said he requested to speak, and I have not gotten an email, though he says it was confirmed in the email. So, I mean, I don't like to do this without written. There's a protocol. I don't like to give it's not fair to give people an opportunity to speak unless they've gone through the correct protocol, because that levels the playing field for everyone. So, Dongwei, I just looked through my emails and I don't see anything from you. And I don't really know what to do about it. Should we give him a couple minutes? He says he's going to send me let's just make the call. He can have 2 minutes. Go ahead. I'm going to promote you. My name is. Okay. I can't, you know what? We're not. We have another meeting. We're going to do the other. I'm getting too much. That's why I shouldn't be also doing the Q&A, and Dongwei and whoever else.
Yeah, for anyone who feels like they had to or did sign up to speak but were unable to, we apologize. We just didn't get your information in time, I guess. But we will circulate your comments if you can provide written comments to us, to all of our members, and your voice will be heard. Again, I apologize. Probably some sort of technical or communication error or gap, but we just are running out of time at this point.
I mean, we did get over 20 people that signed up, so we do pretty thorough tech. But please contact the office, and we'll follow up with you. We have one more meeting where we can hear from you if you really want to speak, and if you want to just write your concerns, we'll have the same outcome. Our board will know about it, and the public record will be updated with your comments. Please do that. You can email the board at qn06@cb.nyc.gov. So we're going to close out this land use portion. Thank you to the board members. Thank you to the developer. Thank you, Prameet. And we will be voting next month. We still have a number of committee reports, so let's just get to it. Up next is Consumer Affairs, Economic Development, Small Business, and we have Chair Elizabeth Newton. I'm going to ask all the chairs to just be mindful of time if you can, please. Thank you. Elizabeth, the floor is yours. Elizabeth, you're up. I think you're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I finally got it. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Hello. This committee report will be very, very short. We did not have any new liquor applications. We have 4 renewals. The renewals are the Versailles Palace, located at 6334 Austin Street in Rego Park. We have the Guantanamera, which is 11080 Queens Boulevard, which is a Mexican restaurant, a Mexican cuisine. We have the Tandoori Food and Bakery, located in Rego Park at 9904 63rd Road. And finally, we have Numero 28, 28 at 10712 70th Road. We are all familiar with these restaurants. They've been in our community for quite some time. There have been no negative reports from 112th precinct, and the committee, except for 3 members, voted to approve the liquor applications. So with that said, the committee votes through to the renewals.
Okay, great. Thank you, Elizabeth. What we're going to do is just go like we did last month, especially since we don't have any new ones. If everyone can just unmute, and we're just going to do a big communal moment. So everyone unmute. All in favor of approving the renewals, say aye.
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 Does anyone have any noes or abstains for any of those? Okay, great. That's how we do it. Thank you, Chair Elizabeth Newton. Up next, we have Public Relations and Social Media Chair, Dr. Renee Mera.
Thank you, Alexa. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to keep it short because we know it's a long meeting. The committee met virtually on October 18th and discussed the protocols and guidelines for Facebook pages putting out flyers and reposting, as well as on Twitter. And we discussed the language and content in the flyers and posts on Facebook and Twitter. We should refrain from partisan politics, fundraising, discrimination, violation of human rights, gender bias, stereotyping, and slander. We're going to get more detailed guidelines from Borough Hall's legal counsel by next month. The committee will create a standard template for flyers so that it'll become easy what to put in the content. And then we'll be uploading them on the Facebook of our community board and then reposting on different Facebook pages, whether it's the community civic organizations of Kew Gardens, the Forest Hills, the Regal Park. The committee also recommended that the press releases of events from different committees of our board to be drafted by those particular committees because they know what they're going to be talking about. But we will create a standard template for them, which we will proofread once they have sent out their press release, and then it will be sent for final approval to the board office. And we've also recommended that the flyer and the press release to be sent to community calendars in the newspapers, as well as on QPTV for their community calendar listings. That's pretty much it. And if anybody wants to join our committee, you're more than welcome because it's a very small committee at this time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Mera. And up next, we have Diversity, Education, and Community Engagement with co-chairs Kevin Lee and Martha Tucker.
All right. Thank you, Alexa. So the Diversity, Education, and Civic Engagement Committee is hosting a virtual listening session on December 14th. The focus will be, the topic will be on diversity, equity, and inclusion in Forest Hills and Regal Park. We would like to invite the public to join us and sign up to be a speaker. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to share their experiences and thoughts as related to the theme of the listening session. We have a sign up form that we will post on social media probably by next week. So that's the update.
Great, thank you both. And since I guess we had a last committee update from this committee, Martha Tucker has become co-chair. So welcome, Martha. So up next we have Parks and Recreation update, committee update from Chair Jean Silva. Go ahead, Jean. You're muted, Jean.
Not going off.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I think you're muted again, Jean. You're re-muted now. So just press it once and give it a moment and then it'll undo it. So it's still muted, so you just have to press it once, but I think there's a little bit of a lag.
Okay, I think we got it.
You got it.
Okay, we got it. Okay, yes, as I said at our last meeting last month, I was very impressed with the meeting that I attended with the Park Department on the budget. And what I'm going to do now is report on a little more detail, but not that much, because I'm going to include the report in the minutes so people can read it later on. We have capital projects that are going on in the area at Forest Park, Austin Playground, Underhill. These are capital projects that have been taking place and have been completed in this fiscal year. We have 4 parks that are under procurement. That means they're out for bids. And so it's Forest Park, Lost Battalion Hall, Yellowstone, and Flushing Meadow Corner Park. All of them have major projects that are out for bid, and we're waiting for them. The last part on this is the design, which we went over in June. The Playground 62 and Forest Harden Playground, both of them are in design, and they should be completed in January of 2022. As far as the forestry, there was 979 pruning how should I put it, programs that took effect in 2021. And unfortunately, in 2022, because of the pandemic and budgets, there will be a cutback on the pruning, but our community, all the pruning has been done for this year. So I find that very good for everybody, especially the trees. The community recreation centers, all of them are open now. They started in July of 2021. By the end of this year, all the recreation centers are open. Of course, the programs, the youth programs, health programs, the mobile programs have been greatly laid back because of the pandemic and trying to get out to the public. Hopefully, we will have it fully in service for next year. But one bit of the news that I want to share with you is that between now, today, and December 1st, you can go to any park recreation center, sign up for membership, and it's for free for 1 year. So I would advise you to do that, because if you sign up in any health club, it's going to cost you a couple $100. In Parks Department and all their recs, they have wonderful services for physical fitness and gyms and programs. So it's free. Go sign up.
Jean,
yeah.
Can I ask you to, this is great information to share with the board in the written format, like you said. Can you let us know what happened at the committee meeting and what you guys discussed there? And then, because we're just,
Well, basically, I gave the additional report and all that, and we wanted to come up with some ideas. And one of them was that we only have 3 parks in our area that have actually volunteer groups. We want to get more people involved in the park, and we want to hopefully get volunteer groups developed. So part of the meeting was that they would, each committee member would go to about 3 parks, try to talk to some people, see what's going on in the neighborhoods, even though they may not be familiar, but they can talk to people, get some ideas, and hopefully we can open up some more volunteer activities in the parks. One of the big things that we were talking about was over at McDonald Park. That was a lot of stuff that was going on over there. They had problems with rats, with just the street completely around the park is decaying. And so just some ideas of what else to do in the parks, you know, what they need and to open them up. Nelson, our park manager, he did come and give us an overview of what's going on. And basically what I've told you was in the report. Other than that, that was probably it. We just discussed some more things and hopefully we can go out and enjoy the parks and have a good season next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay, up next we have Aging, Social Services and Disabilities Committee report, co-chair Mark Laster and Ralph Leonard. I don't see Ralph, so I think Mark.
Correct. Good evening.
You're
All right,
Yep.
so we'll go through this quick. So the Aging, Social Service and Disability Committee met this past Monday, and we heard a presentation from Tulare Iqbal, the director of Queens Community Houses Forest Hills Senior Center and NORC program. After reviewing their NORC program, there was an ask if they would be open to exploring neighborhood NORC. Ms. Iqbal will discuss this with her supervisors. We've collected 98 responses to our senior survey, 69 of them living in CB6. The committee will start working on preparing a preliminary report regarding the results of the survey. Thanks to committee members Latrice Davis, Teresa Simmons, and citizen member Dana Kaufner for helping in summarizing the data we've received. Our next presentation will be Monday, November 29th, 6:30 p.m. via WebEx. We are proud to have Dr. Jeffrey Weiss explain to us the importance of redistricting, and it's going to be facilitated by Anicia Ion. We are planning an intergenerational presentation focused on either COVID recovery and/or growing up in our community. We were joined in this discussion by Alexandria Sumter Delvis, Division Director of Queens Community Houses Youth Workforce, who shared a young person's perspective with the committee on these issues. Thanks to Bruce Grossberg and Teresa Simmons for connecting with Alexandria and agreeing to form a subcommittee to further develop this presentation, along with the committee member Latrice Davis and Alexandra Sumter Davis. This presentation is being planned for January 2022. We are working on developing further presentations for the next year. The next meeting of the Aging, Social Service and Disability Committee will be on Monday, December 13th, 6:30 p.m. We plan to meet the second Monday of the month in the future months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And now we have Public Transportation and Transportation with co-chairs Peter Beadle and Alejandra Diaz-Houston.
Great, thanks. I'll be doing the report today. We had our meeting last night. We were joined by John O'Neill of the Department of Transportation. The primary issue on our agenda was to address a proposal to revise the direction of travel on one block of Kessel Street. Kessel Street is a street that runs roughly from between Union Turnpike and Selfridge. It's parallel to Metropolitan Avenue, and it's about one block before Metropolitan Avenue if you were traveling southbound on Union, to give you some perspective. The issue there, which came to the board approximately a year or so ago after a petition from residents on Kessel Street was submitted to our council member Karen Kozlowitz asking for some solution to what they were experiencing, which was an excessive amount of speeding and dangerous driving. What apparently is happening is drivers get backed up from the light that's at Metropolitan and Union, and some of them decide that they're going to shoot down Kessel to avoid Metropolitan and avoid that intersection. Our resident community member, JP Freely, who lives on that block, has documented somewhere around a half a dozen different crashes on that one block just in the last couple years. And the entire street is affected. It's not just about this one block. So DOT did a study to see if there are any particular solutions that might help this. One of the first things they checked to see is if any stop signs or traffic lights could be installed. And what they found, because DOT has to meet certain what are called warrants, these are federal guidelines that determine when a particular traffic control device can be installed, like a stop sign or a traffic light. The volumes on the street didn't meet the warrants. Now, some might think, well, if there's not that much traffic, why is this a problem? And it's not about the volume of traffic. The problem that the residents were experiencing is the type, which are people who are just trying to cut through the neighborhood very rapidly, and it created a huge danger. So a petition was drafted and circulated with over 100 signatures. We got a lot of feedback from the people on that street, very supportive for this proposal. And the proposal is that the block between Union Turnpike and 75th Road, which currently goes in the direction from Union Turnpike towards Selfridge, would be reversed. So now that one block would run from 75th Road to Union Turnpike. And that would prevent folks on Union Turnpike turning off and shooting through the neighborhood. We also, however, received feedback of people who were concerned from the Forest Hills Gardens that the effect of that change might be to cause traffic now to divert earlier onto Greenway South and enter into the gardens. Mitchell Cohen, who's the president of the Forest Hills Gardens Association, was at the meeting, and we gave him the opportunity to speak and ask questions of Mr. O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill spent a lot of time with the committee and responding to these questions. And what the DOT has found is that their traffic count suggests that it's unlikely that there'll be those kinds of diversions through Forest Hills Gardens. The other issue that Mr. O'Neill raised was that the Gardens has more flexibility in how they control their streets. The Gardens has the ability to put up a stop sign without having to meet a federal warrant. And in fact, when you do come into Greenway South off of Union Turnpike, you encounter stop signs fairly quickly. But the concerns of the Gardens was taken very seriously. So one of the concessions, it wasn't really a concession, he was very willing to do it, but what we made sure that Mr. O'Neill agreed to was that the garden will collect some of its own traffic data and share that with DOT in the future, so that if there does start to be a pattern seen of vehicles going through the gardens instead, which is a pattern that doesn't really make sense if you're trying to do a shortcut up closer to Metropolitan, winding through the gardens to do the same thing doesn't quite make sense, but it could happen. And so Mr. O'Neill affirmed that DOT would be very happy to meet with the gardens and receive any data that they collect, and then they can look again at the Kessel revision. So after quite a lot of discussion and Mr. O'Neill answering all of our questions, the committee voted. It was a unanimous vote in favor of doing the revision to make Kessel Street safer and address the dangers that the residents living there right now are experiencing. And so that passed unanimously. We then moved on to a report from Mr. O'Neill and some other projects in the community. They're working on some parking protected bike lanes on the match pair of 63rd Road and 62nd Avenue between Queens Boulevard and the Grand Central Parkway Service Road. They feel this would provide a safe way for people on bikes to reach Flushing Meadows Corona Park from the Queens Boulevard bike lane and start developing more of a network in the neighborhood. Also on the Grand Central Parkway, they're hoping to actually extend a two-way bike lane from the area of 62nd, kind of roughly south, alongside the park. They're hoping that will both calm speeding that's seen on the Grand Central Parkway Service Road and also help address some of the illegal parking of trucks that has been a frequent issue before the board. They're also going to work with Forest Hills High School to fence in that blacktop area at the very back of the athletic fields on the Grand Central Parkway, so that large trucks can't use that for overnight parking, which has been a problem. The Queens Boulevard redesign is continuing. It's now reached Union Turnpike and is just about finished. I did bring to Mr. O'Neill's attention a concern that we received an email on from a resident that there's some congestion and backing up that's happening in the area between 72nd and Ascan, and I've asked him to have a look at that, and he said that he would. And so that was the updates that he was able to provide us. Our next meeting will be Thursday, December 16th. We're going to try and meet the third Thursday of the month. And at that meeting, the main goal is to kind of review what kind of issues are are presenting problems within the community on transportation, and develop an agenda for future meetings, issues that we can bring to the DOT's attention. And that's our report. Thank you.
Excuse me, Peter?
Yeah.
Peter, yeah, this is John Dereshevsky. I think DOT did ask that we do provide them with a letter in terms of the Kessel, change, and I think it would be appropriate for us to vote on it. I mean, as one who supported it in the Transportation Committee, I think we should reaffirm this so that we could have the full support of the board when we write the letter to DOT. And I
Yeah,
would,
John, specifically what Mr. O'Neill, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but what John O'Neill said actually was that he needed either the vote of the committee or a letter of the board. But my understanding, and it's at the discretion of the chair, my understanding is actually it will be put to a vote.
We will be voting on it now. I see Heidi has her hand up. Thank you, John. Heidi has her hand up, and then I just wanted you to circle back if there was any update about the 69th Street study.
Oh, there was, but I can speak after Heidi on.
So let's, Heidi, go ahead. You're mute. We don't hear you for some reason. I don't see you
I actually
muted.
saw her leave my screen.
No, she.
Oh, there she is.
But we can't hear you.
Oh.
I see you're muted now, and now try to unmute. I think maybe try to unplug your audio and try to just, because maybe the headphones aren't working.
We heard her before. No, it's still not.
Does anyone else hear her?
Not yet.
No.
Hear you, Heidi.
Heidi, you're muted.
Actually, she doesn't show as muted. It's now she does. There you go. But for some reason, the audio is not coming through.
Well, I
unplug the headphones.
Yeah. Do you
Well, how
want to
about
try
I
to
talk
plug
about 69th while Heidi works on that issue?
Heidi, well, Peter will give a short update about another thing, and then we'll come back to you when you work out your audio, okay? Peter, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for reminding me of that, because that actually was a rather important update that John gave. We had asked that the DOT conduct a safety study of 69th and Jewel Avenue, as well as the Grand Central Parkway service road between them, to try and address conditions of safety for all road users, pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. The DOT has started to look at this issue, but one of the specific issues in terms of providing a safe bicycle lane, because as probably you all know, the state and the city DOT have constructed bike lanes across the park at 69th and Jewel, connecting with a bike lane on Jewel Avenue on the far side of the park in CB8. And the problem is, if you're coming from that direction, you reach CB6 and you immediately dumped into dangerous traffic with no safe space to go. So that's a very scary situation, especially if you're traveling with your kids. The DOT's concern, though, is because of the size of the street and the geometry, they wouldn't be able to add a protected bike lane on those streets without either removing all the parking on one side of the street or removing a travel lane. And so that becomes a situation for further discussion within the board, whether we want to make that specific ask to DOT. And it's probably something that we need to do some more work on with the community there. Would affect those residents very strongly. But in connection actually with that other project I was just talking about, 62nd, 63rd, and coming down the Grand Central Serviceway with a two-way bikeway, they might be able to explore whether they can create some parallel bicycle connections closer to 69th and Jewel, but on quieter streets that would still allow them to make the connection, and they can work on making a connection from coming out of the park and then hooking over to a parallel street instead. So that's something they're going to be looking at next. And that's
Okay.
where we are.
I just have one follow-up before we go back to Heidi about that. are they doing a traffic study about the existing traffic on those roads and how awful it is?
You know,
Or is it, are they a study about putting a bike lane? Because those are two different things. Like, and even if they say we can't do the bike lane, I hope that they're still investigating the current traffic and build up on those roads.
I believe they are, and John's comment on is that clearly there is a lot of traffic and congestion, and it's unsafe for everybody
Right.
there. But you know,
Okay.
honestly, in the doing everything that we were talking about last night, I don't think I got a specific statement that they are actually conducting the traffic study. So I can follow up with him.
Okay, great, thanks. Heidi, let's see if your audio works. I don't want to be the one to say it's not working, but I don't think it's working.
I don't hear her.
Nope.
It's not working. Let's move on.
Okay, so maybe
Alexa?
Peter.
Alexa, it's Joan. I have a question. I have my hand up.
Sure. Oh, sure. Sorry, I didn't see you.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
With respect to the intersection of Union Turnpike and Metropolitan, I'm just curious whether anyone has even thought about extending the light or putting arrows. There is such a tremendous backup at that light that it forces people to go down Kessel. And that was always part of the problem. And if they would address that corner, I think a lot of those issues would go away. And it's not just coming from going west. It's going east. It's also going in the other direction, south and north. The backup on the other side is horrendous because the light is so short getting across.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. That actually reminds me of another bit that John O'Neill also mentioned, is that DOT does plan on they've already started work on studying that intersection. And he is hopeful that in the spring, they will be able to come to us with some of the ideas they have for addressing exactly those issues. So that is being looked at, absolutely.
Okay, so Heidi is still having issues, but Heidi, I think you can hear me. Would you like me to read the email that you wrote? Oh, wait, okay, great. So I will read the email. I'm sorry about the tech issues. So, okay, so Heidi wants to be clear that Heidi will be personally affected by this decision. Please advise if this would be appropriate. Oh, okay, wait, hold on, let me guess. Heidi does not believe that it would be appropriate to solve the traffic problem on one block by transferring the problem to the next block. She had raised this issue when she first heard that CB6 had requested DOT consider making this change in the traffic pattern. With all of the apps directing traffic, all the traffic will be directed by the apps to turn off Union Turnpike onto Greenway South. Heidi's very disappointed that other alternatives were not considered to control the traffic and solve the problem rather than moving the traffic problem from Kessel Street to Greenway South. At least, okay, I think the rest is just, yeah, okay. Is that good, Heidi? Okay, so if you had to, let me just get a response from Peter and then we'll hear from Kevin.
Yeah, no, I mean, that point's very well taken. And in fact, Mitchell Cohen from the Forest Hills Gardens Association brought up these issues. And I think, as I said before, the issue affects more than just a single block of Kessel, although that's where the change will be. The speeding and dangerous driving that they've experienced has been along the entire street because it's being used not just to avoid the intersection, but also to avoid all of Metropolitan. They're using it to cut across all the way to Selfridge. And in fact, yesterday morning, Kevin, who's about to ask a question, but he sent us an email showing us pictures of a crash that happened at Kessel and Selfridge. So, I mean, there's been a lot happening over there. The other issue, and I also said this, was just that this wasn't the only issue, the only solution. They got to this solution after looking at several others, and this was the one that was feasible as determined by the DOT engineers.
I think John Turetsky has his hand up.
Oh,
I think it's been up for a while. I think it's from the beginning, John?
Well, it was, but I just wanted to say, I think in terms of in reaction to Heidi, I think one of the things that we made clear in the resolution would that in going forward, DOT would be working collaboratively and cooperatively with all the parties, including the Forest Hills Gardens group, in terms of both anticipating any unanticipated consequences and trying to adjust it. So in this going forward, the views of all parties, including Forest Hills Gardens, will be taken into consideration.
Okay, thanks, John. Let's hear from Kevin, and then we'll bring it to a vote. So, Kevin, go ahead.
I don't have a question anymore. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Peter.
Alexa, this is Alejandra. Just as co-chair with Peter, just one other thing I'll add that speaks to Heidi's concerns, or that one of the things that DOT was examining was the angle of Kessel Street and the contributing role that that plays in terms of driver behavior. In Kessel Street, I think John O'Neill said it's roughly a 45-degree angle from Union Turnpike. And so that inadvertently lends itself to drivers, particularly those that may not be familiar with the area, treating it almost like a highway off-ramp. And that isn't as much of a concern on Greenway South or Greenway North, where it really is a proper right turn. And so safety concerns being primary to this request, that was also a factor. So even if there is some traffic that moves over to those other streets, it's not anticipated that it would have the same speed, which is really the central concern for the residents on Kessel.
Okay, great. Heidi, there's something going on with your audio. We can't hear you still. But so either
I have my hand up. It's Martha. I had my hand up.
Go ahead, Martha. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I drive this route constantly, and I do know as you exit right, there are 3 speed bumps already that slows down traffic. And these speed bumps could actually be used by other areas to alleviate this congestion. So why don't we have this option? What are they proposing to do on top of having these 3 speed bumps?
Sorry, Martha, are those speed bumps on Kessel? Or you mean on Greenway South?
They're on Kessel, because that's the route I go from church. There are 3 speed bumps on Kessel.
On that first block?
All the way up. On the first block, yes. As soon as you come off the expressway or turnpike, there are 3 speed bumps at each block.
So that kind of highlights the problem, right? So despite those speed humps, this is happening. Despite those speed humps, you have people who then, once they get past those speed humps, speed as well, because they're using that as a cut through. And that's why multiple crashes have been seen on that block and on other parts of the street.
But after the speed bump, you're now met with a traffic light.
Not on Kessel and 75th, you are not. There's no there is not a traffic control device for travel on Kessel as it hits 75th Street. And they studied that to see if they could put in a stop sign, and it didn't meet the federal warrants.
Okay, thanks for that, Martha. So Peter or Alejandra, can you restate what we are going to bring to the floor for a vote now, what your recommendation is, please?
Sure. So the committee voted in favor of approving a revision of the block of Kessel Street between Union Turnpike and 75th Road by reversing the flow of traffic direction so that it would now flow from 75th Road towards Union Turnpike. The committee, though, also stipulated that it expects that the Department of Transportation will work cooperatively with the Forest Hills Garden Association, receiving any traffic data they provide to help them study whether unintended consequences cause deleterious traffic issues for the gardens. And then if that's shown to happen, we'll then revisit the revision on Kessel Street to see if there's other changes that can be made. And we voted
Peter,
unanimously to approve that.
Peter, can you now hear me? It's Heidi.
Yes,
I'm trying on the phone.
that works.
Okay, there are a couple of things. Number one, we heard that the corner of Union Turnpike and Kessel has a wrong configuration, like a ramp. And if they should change that corner and make it into a 90-degree, it should slow the traffic and help. Number two, I think that the point that Joan made regarding the metropolitan corner of Metro and Union is a constant problem, which causes the traffic to go down Kessel. I have no doubt, and I see it every day, that Kessel Street does have problems. But doing this will, by course of the apps, send everyone down Greenway South, possibly down Greenway South and up Puritan, to then make the next right onto Kessel, or just going down Greenway South. And we cannot ignore the effect of these apps. When we had some construction earlier this year, they routed all of the traffic through Greenway South. I couldn't even open my car door and get out. We have children on Greenway South. We have lots of people who use Greenway South as a way to walk, particularly after COVID. We have bicycle riders on Greenway South. And I just think that this will not benefit the community, but will truly harm the community, and that I urge a better solution for the whole community rather than just this one change of direction that I think is going to have a lot of negative consequences.
All right. Thanks. So as I explained, I just want to respond to some of that. So as I explained, and actually Martha's point about the speed hump kind of highlights, is that just changing the geometric shape of the turn off of Union Turnpike wouldn't be enough, because people are still speeding through there even with speed humps. So although the current configuration, as Alejandra pointed out, to certainly encourages some people to do that, they're still doing it even with speed humps. They can't put in a traffic light or a stop sign. And while they are going to study the intersection of Metropolitan and Union Turnpike, that only addresses some of the people who are cutting through. Many of the rest are going all the way down Kessel because they're trying to avoid Metropolitan entirely. So it's not just about that intersection. And of course, Kessel has all the same children and bicycle riders and elderly folk on it as does any other street in our neighborhood. And they are currently experiencing multiple crashes, very dangerous speeding conditions on a regular basis. I'm sympathetic to the concerns of the Gardens, but honestly, right now, that is a hypothetical concern. And as John O'Neill pointed out, the Gardens has ways of addressing traffic concerns that DOT on a city street, which has to follow federal warrants, can't. The Gardens has more flexibility to do their own speed humps, to put in their own stop signs. And I dispute actually the idea that Waze or Google Drive is going to suddenly move everybody up through the Gardens on a more circuitous diversion when their goal is to head towards Metropolitan anyway. It might happen, and that's why we wanted to stipulate with DOT that they're going to be receptive of the Gardens data. But we have a real problem putting families at risk right now, and this is the solution the traffic engineers tells us could solve that, rather than a hypothetical risk that we need to keep an eye on, but has not materialized.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to table the committee vote on the committee report right now and request that it be reconsidered.
I mean, I guess we could see if there's a second, but I just, like Peter said earlier, that the recommendation from the committee is enough for them to write the letter. I thought it was important to bring it to the whole board and have a conversation, because I think it has more weight when it's put to the whole board and people have an option to be in support or not in support of it. But with tabling it, I mean, it's kind of like as of right development.
I would second it because I think the study for the light at the corner should be done prior to changing a whole street direction. They kind of go together a little bit.
Only
That's
to
a
an
big
extent.
headache over there.
That's actually not only to an extent, Joan. There's people speeding down Kessel all the way to Selfridge where there was a crash just yesterday morning.
There's
It's not
crashes
just
on
about-
72nd and Juneau all the time, Peter, because people want to avoid Continental and no one's done that. We can't even get a speed bump. I disagree with you. There's lots of places that are dangerous.
Yeah. No, you and I agree on that.
Just on point of procedure. Just point of
Can we
procedure.
have a vote on my
Once the
motion,
table
please?
is not debatable, and it goes directly to a vote. If it passes, it's tabled. If it's not passed, it fails.
Okay, so let's vote on Heidi's motion to table. So that's what we are voting on. We are not voting on the change of direction. We're voting now on a motion that's on the floor to table this until, did you give a date or you just said a later date?
To be
It would have to be
reconsidered.
removed.
Okay, so that's what we're voting on right now. Anicia? So just a yes would be to table, a no would be to continue. So, sorry, Anicia? Yes. Kavish?
Yes.
Peter?
No, I don't think the people on Kessel should be left to
let's
face this
keep doing
danger
yes.
anymore.
Let's just be yes and no right now. Miriam? Miriam, you're muted. I'm going to unmute you and you can are you a yes or a no, Miriam? You're still muted. I'll come back to you. Howie?
No.
Heidi?
Yes.
Sheridan?
No.
Alex?
No.
I don't think Latrice joined in. John?
No.
That was a no, right?
No. Yes. No.
Alejandra?
No.
Heather?
No.
Gail?
No.
Brendan?
No.
Bruce?
No.
Odette?
No.
Permeet?
No.
Mark?
No.
Jonathan? I didn't hear you, Jonathan.
No.
Okay, thanks. Kevin?
No.
Renee?
No.
Pat? Pat?
No. No.
Elizabeth?
No.
Tanya?
No.
Shari?
Yes.
Did Gladys join? I don't believe I've seen her. David?
Yes.
Herbert? Herb?
No.
Jean?
Yes.
Martha?
No.
Susan?
No.
Alexa, no. Joan?
Yes.
Edwin?
No. No.
Okay, so that is 1, 2, I think we have 3, 5, 6 yeses. And
Alexa,
the balance.
I'm voting no. It's Mary.
Okay, then one more for the no. Thank you, Miriam. Sorry, I didn't loop back to you. So we have 6 yeses to 6 to a lot of no's. I can't add that fast, but the no's have it. So let's go right into a vote on the Transportation Committee's recommendation, which is in support of a revision of the block of Kessel Street between Union Turnpike and 75th Road to reverse the flow to go from 75th Road to Union Turnpike with a stipulation that the DOT will work with the Forest Hills Garden Association moving forward. So we'll start at the top. So now we are voting for that recommendation. Anicia?
Yes.
Kavish. Kavish? Peter?
Yes.
Miriam?
Yes.
Howie?
Yes.
Heidi?
No.
Sheridan?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Alejandra?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Odette?
Yes.
Hermeet?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
Shari?
I have to abstain.
Okay. David? David, I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Herb?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Martha?
No.
Susan? Susan?
Yes.
Alexa, yes. Joan? Joan? Can everyone hear me still?
Sorry, no.
Okay. Okay. Susan, are you around?
I'm here.
Okay. Are you a yes or no?
Oh, I was a yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I think my audio went out for a second. Sorry about that. Edwin?
Yes.
Okay. And there was one other person who I thought was here. Kavish? Are you here?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I voted yes.
Oh, okay. So my audio, sorry guys. So the yeses have it. We had,
Oh, this is Teresa. I didn't get
oh,
the vote.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
Sorry about that. Usually Christine does our votes and I'm not as clear. Okay, great. So the yeses have it. We have, there were 3 no's and 1 abstention, and the yeses have the balance. So thank you, everyone. That was really productive. Thanks to the Transportation Committee. We still have a little bit of work to do tonight, so don't go anywhere. I think that's it for committee reports. Now we have a good and welfare portion. And we did send around in advance of this meeting a letter that was drafted about redistricting. I hope everyone had a chance to see that and look it over. People who want to speak can use the raise hand function. And we have Heather's hand is raised. David Schneier, maybe you were first. Oh no, maybe it's not up anymore. Heather, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to explain the impetus behind this letter. As in full disclosure, I am the co-chair of the Central Queens Redistricting Coalition. It is a group of community leaders that predominantly reside between Rego Park, Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, and South Richmond Hill and Richmond Hill. We are working in a non-political way. And one of the things that made me think about the role that our community board could play is the fact that this community board interacts with a multitude of elected officials. We interact with, well, we should be interacting with 4 assembly members, 3 senators, 2 council members, and 1 congressperson. And there are ways that we have seen in working and looking at the maps, that there is a way for us to have a simpler way to engage our representatives in not having to have our district sliced and diced like an onion into multiple pieces and thrown into other districts. Because what we have seen when that happens is when we have a situation like Ida and we have flooding, you'll have folks in certain parts of our district. And I've heard this from people on our board, like Anicia, who reaches out to assembly members, her assembly member, and doesn't get a response because her neighborhood is just a small portion. So I think it is better for all of our residents to have simpler and fewer points of contact so that they know who to engage with. We know how much work and what a lift it takes to get our members to engage. So I think this is just our expression to the redistricting committee to say, we'd like our representation to be simple. We would like to have our communities kept whole so that our communities could work more efficiently. So just to give you some explanation. Thank you.
So everyone had a chance to see the letter, and we can have a short conversation about it, and then I'd like to take a vote on if you support this letter going out. I will say that one change that I'd like to make to the letter is just right now it's signed just by me, and I want to have it signed by Community Board 6. It could be my signature on behalf of the board members of Community Board 6, especially since it's going to a vote. So does anyone have any? Who is that?
Frank.
Frank.
Yeah, hi. I think Heather should, maybe you could explain the process of redistricting. I mean, we are writing a letter. I think that people should know that it's based on population, not gentrification. We should tell the people that there's right now an existing, the two parties draw up the lines. And then after that, there's a process where it goes to the legislature. They take a look at it. Then after that, if they agree on it or disagree on it, it goes back, it's redrawn again. And the final procedure, some point in time in January, is actually looked at by the local elected leaders. Now, you might say we have 4 assembly members or something like that. Well, it's your responsibility to know if they're not doing their job to do something about it. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the way the lines were drawn, there's a geographic outline that one has to go and look at. For example, some areas have to go up the train tracks. Some areas, say down in southern Queens, go in and around the water where there are no inhabitants. But to get the line up to make the population number, they have to go into some of the side streets up and down. I'm all for the letter, don't get me wrong, but I think the process, you should understand that it's huge. And in the past, some areas that were mentioned have been zapped. In other words, they really didn't get the right representation for years. But with the changing population in Queens, some areas more than others, some people have come and realized that they need to sit at the table. And that's really what this is about. So barring aside the politics and stuff like that, it's important that we let our voice be heard without being political. And I don't think we are, because Heather has identified herself and the committee that sits on along with some of our other members. I'm always cognizant of the fact of the perception of where we go with some of this stuff. But I'm all for the letter, FYI. Just give me a little background so you guys know, and gals. I don't want to get in trouble.
And Frank, I'm glad you brought up the dates, just so everyone knows timetable. By 1:15, the second draft of maps will come out from the commission. They did submit 2 sets. We're hoping for 1 set on the 15th of January. And then if it gets kicked, if, for example, the state assembly and Senate don't like them, they get kicked back and they will have to be submitting another set of revisions on the 28th of February. So that's sort of the timeline. So hopefully by February, this thing will be baked and ready to go.
And the reason for that being that they have to get the petitions ready for the elections, the primaries that'll be held in June, so that everybody knows their new lines, if they even are new lines. So this is a world, I don't say worldwide, but a United States wide procedure that's happening, just not us. And then they do a revision later on. But if Carl Hastings, the speaker, doesn't call that up right away, they might be pushing that back, those dates. That's what I heard just this past week.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna just open the floor to comments.
Yep.
Yeah, so I see Edwin, Martha, Mark, Heidi, and I'll go in that order, and I'm not sure if everyone is, and Anicia, and I'm not sure if everyone is talking about this issue. If you're not, once this is closed, we'll come back to you. Edwin, go ahead. You're muted, though.
Hi, Alexa. Yeah, my question is not on this issue. It's just an event that I want to announce. So I'll wait.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Thanks. Martha's hand is down. Okay, and maybe that was left over from before. So we have Mark, Heidi, and Anicia. Go ahead. Try to keep your comments brief.
I have two things to say about this redistricting. The first thing is I had announced earlier, and I want to now re-announce it, November 29th. If people truly are interested in learning more about the process, we're having a presentation by Aging Social Service by Dr. Jeff Weiss, a well-respected person who has gone through, I think, 4 or 5 redistricting processes. So please, if you want to learn more about this process, and for full disclosure, I'm also a member of the Central Queens Redistricting Commission.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to let the community board know.
A number of groups having dissertations on redistricting, if you're interested, beginning with Borough Hall and City Hall.
Okay, Heidi, you're up.
Okay, I just wanted to point out, and I didn't want the letter to have the wrong interpretation, or having multiple electeds at times has helped us. And it has helped that we can have more than one state senator contact agencies for us. And particularly in the IDA situation, where we had lots of buildings and lots of people who were adversely affected, I know as our CERT team chair, I contacted all of our electeds. And by having all of our electeds put pressure on, it helps. So I just don't want it to seem that we are totally at a disadvantage, because there are times that we could be at an advantage of having 2 state senators asking for something, and more than one city council person pushing the agencies to help us.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks, Heidi. Anicia, go ahead.
I don't agree with some of the comments, because I live in an area that's been chopped off for 10 years. We never hear from this person. And now with the new maps, the area Regal Park is being chopped off, sent it all the way to Whitestone, Flushing, and College Point. And we don't have nothing in common. That's how these maps are being drawn.
It's not about being in common, it's about population.
Okay, so I think we weren't going to read
political either. It's not political either, our group.
Okay. I kind of think maybe we weren't going to read the letter, but I kind of think we maybe should read the letter now. Heather,
Alexa?
can I read? Oh, Heather?
I'm just thinking I just simply like to make a motion, yes or no, on this, because it is 9:42. To be respectful of people's time, we're encroaching on 3 hours of an evening. I mean, it's a long one. So it's either going to pass or it's not. I don't think that reading it is going to move folks one way or the other. I just appreciate you all taking the time to entertain this idea. Thank you all.
Great.
No, I agree, Heather. Yeah. I mean,
So
the letter has been distributed. We've read it. Let's vote.
Was that your motion, Heather?
Indeed, it was.
Okay.
Then I second it. Elizabeth Newton.
Okay. So right now we are voting yes or no to sign this letter that you've read in your email from the members of Queens Community Board 6. Okay. Anicia?
Yes.
Kavish?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Miriam,
Yes.
Howie,
Yes.
Heidi. Oh, Heidi?
No.
Okay. Sheridan. What was that? Sheridan?
No, did you hear me? No.
I hear you now. Alex.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Alejandra.
Yes.
Heather.
I think I should abstain.
No. Say yes.
Yeah, I don't think you abstain. What, on what grounds?
Okay. Okay. If Mr. Bylaw says I should vote, then I will follow what Mr. Derzowski says.
I believe so. Gail.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Odette.
Yes.
Permeet.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Renee. Renee. Pat.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Tanya.
Yes.
Sherry.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Herb. Herb.
Yes.
Jean. Jean.
No.
Jean, I'll come back. Oh, no. Okay. Teresa.
Yes.
Martha.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alexa, yes. Joan.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Edwin.
Alexa, I'm yes. Renee, I'm yes.
Great.
Edwin's a yes.
Edwin's a yes. Okay, that's it. So we to 3 no's to the balance yeses, the motion passed. Thank you for bringing it to the board. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled good and welfare. I know there were, so I'll start off with Edwin. Go ahead.
Hi, Alexa. Well, I just first want to ask, did Mike Arcady give you information about the event tomorrow at American Legion or not? I know he was trying to.
Like in the past 5 minutes or in general?
No, just in general. Okay, that's fine. I'll just share. I just want to share an event on his behalf with the American Legion, if that's okay. So many people don't know. Yeah, many people don't know we have an American Legion here in Forest Hills on Metropolitan. They are actually going to have a panel discussion tomorrow evening on Veterans Day at 7 o'clock, and that's over at 10715 Metropolitan Avenue off of Ascan. They will have a few speakers speak, and then there'll be a reception afterwards with the speakers and veterans that are members. The public are welcome to attend, and if you'd like to give a donation for the reception portion of it, that'd be appreciated. Anyone that wants to attend, they can RSVP to American Legion Forest Hills 1424@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'll send the details to if Christine wants to circulate it tomorrow.
Great. Thank you so much. No one's in the office tomorrow.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so
It's okay.
yeah, you can send it to me and I can post it on our Twitter or
Okay,
something.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Was there something else you wanted to add, Edwin, before we move on? That was
No,
it?
thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks. David, you're up.
Thank you. As Alexa mentioned earlier in the evening, next meeting will be nominations for the executive committee. I won't be available. I'm planning on taking journalism classes in 2022. I encourage everyone who wants to get more involved and help the community to run for that or any position. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure, but also hard work. I'll be on the board though.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks for everything. Mark Laster, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to read the report. I'm just going to submit it, but I just want to basically remind people Forest Green Team remains very active, and I'm not going to read the full report. I'll just submit it, and please, I'd appreciate it if it can go out with the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think that is it for us. We have some electeds. I don't have my list in front of me, but Alexa, I see you're on the line. So why don't we start with you? Go
Yeah, hi,
ahead.
thanks everybody. Forgive me, I'm gonna keep the video off because I can guarantee you nobody wants to see what I look like right now. But it's good to see all of your faces, and thanks so much for having me. Just a couple of quick updates. We'll start with the redistricting. We are circulating a letter, thanks to Heather and those Central Queens redistricting folks, to increase language access about redistricting materials. So we've circulated that amongst all the Queens members of the Senate and Assembly, and that should be ready to go later this week. I also want to thank Community Board 6 for all of the partnerships and help that you've given for our park cleanup series. We have one coming up this Sunday at Painter's Playground that starts at 10 a.m. And that's going to be a park cleanup along with a daffodil planting. So if you can make it out to that, that'd be great. And we'll have that flyer to share shortly as well. Other than that, we're just here to listen and take things in. You know, it's really good to hear about the DOT and the safety issues. There's some other areas that have been flagged for to us by other constituents, mainly the Austin Street underpass and also the stretch where Metro and Union Turnpike intersect where the highway is, just as safety issues. So we're working with DOT to address those as well. And as always, if there's anything else, you guys know how to contact us, where to find our office, and we're here to listen and help in any way we can. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Alexa, I see Amparetta still here. Sorry, from
Yeah, no, I found my list. Thank you.
Okay.
So, yep, Amparito, go ahead from Queensborough President's Office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'll be very brief. I know everybody wants to get some rest. I just have two announcements for two events that the BP will be holding. The first one would be the Transgender Day of Remembrance ceremony, which will take place Tuesday, November 16th at 5:30 p.m. on the steps of Borough Hall. And the second one will be a menorah lighting ceremony Tuesday, November 30th at 4:30 p.m. at Queensborough Hall. There's a lot of other events happening in the coming months, so you could always go to queensbp.org and check it out. And also, I just wanted to mention about the attendance. What Alexa said is correct, 3 in 6 months period. And if it is more than that, the board can actually vote to remove a member. So that's just a clarification. And also, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope everyone relaxes, and anyone who is a veteran, thank you for your service. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Rito. And up next, we have Ricky from Assemblymember Rosenthal's office.
I will turn my camera on, even though I didn't do my hair. It's a bold joke. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan's Director of Operations. Just a few things to pass. I think everyone's familiar with it. We're going to be hosting an event up in College Point at Population Institute on phone scam and fraud prevention. No one here is a stranger to unsolicited calls from people claiming they're government agencies or big companies, requesting gift cards, asking for sensitive information over the phone, or telling you their family members in peril. So we pulled in the New York State Department of Consumer Affairs as well as the Con Ed. So we'll be doing that on next Wednesday, November 17th. I will forward that flyer to Christine to circulate to the membership, and anyone's welcome. Though RSVP necessary. They have parking up in Pop and Union, so if you're driving, it's easy to get to. Secondly, more of an extended event. The COVID pandemic has obviously shed some light on more vulnerable parts of our communities. So we're going to be doing a month of giving. I'm sure everyone's going to be asking for things over the next month or so, but we will be collecting for Toys for Tots, toiletries for veterans, as well as some non-perishable foods for a couple of food banks. So if you are within the confines of the 27th district, you will be getting a letter on how to donate, but I will also forward information for any folks that are outside the district lines who want to donate. So we'll be doing that until about mid-December. And then just to close, before we get to Veterans Day, I would like to say happy birthday to any Marines who are out there. 246 years that the Devil Dogs have been defending our freedom, so thank you very much. And then obviously tomorrow, big day for those 7% of our country who has served and are veterans. You see the hat, you see the bracelet, shake a hand, thank you. Well, give an elbow, give a salute. Let's thank them for their service. You know, very few people who volunteer their service to do this. So, other than that, it's good to see everyone. I like spending nights with you guys. You know, we're always around. So, have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Ricky, and thank you for your service. Ricky is a veteran. So to all the veterans on our board and in our community, thank you for your service. Happy Veterans Day tomorrow. And I guess, yeah, we won't be together as a full board until after Thanksgiving and Hanukkah. So enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you soon. But it's been a great meeting. We accomplished a lot.
Alexa.
Thank you. Oh, Pat, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say, first of all, this is Transgender Awareness Month. And November 13th to November 19th is generally the time that we acknowledge Transgender Awareness Week, along with the Borough President's November 20th of being Transgender Remembrance Day. For hate crimes in New York City, the first group are generally anti-Semitic hate crimes. The second group is people of color. The third group of people acknowledged are LGBT community. In the United States, we average every 9 days a person who is transgender, gender nonconforming, gender non-binary, or intersex who is murdered on an average of every 9 days in this country. I myself, who is gender nonconforming, is a survivor of numerous hate crimes, including verbal and including bashings over the years, including being fired from jobs for not conforming to clothing standards that a woman has to wear. New York City, thanks to the hate crimes legislation, it's easier for LGBTQ members of the community to maintain their jobs, to maintain their living quarters, and to maintain being able to walk out on the street. I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. It ain't easy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing, Pat. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. With that, thank you all for being here and for everything that you put into the long meeting tonight, and enjoy the rest of whatever is left of tonight and the rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.